Join Ashley and I in the Pledge of Allegiance, not the national anthem.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As is usual, I will now read the mission statement. The Newmarket School District is committed to the highest standards of quality education. We ensure a safe and successful learning community. We embrace diversity and respond to the social, emotional, intellectual, and physical needs of every child. We strive to work with the broader community to ensure that students develop lifelong skills, enabling them to be contributing and productive members of society. Okay, so it looks like we have some recognitions tonight.
First of all, I want to point out we always give small tokens of appreciation to people about different ways to honor their accomplishments, and something new. Some folks will get some mugs tonight that say have Newmarket with a mule on it, and Newmarket School District building bright futures, and so it's a nice addition to what we do. And it's great to have people here to be able to recognize them, because I'm very, very pleased to do both of these sets of recognitions. The first is about the department chairs, the department heads at the high school, and the terrific work that they do. I'm going to ask Chris Andriski to come up and say a few words as well, but I'll start with mine. This recognition is so deserved for a couple of reasons in my mind. One is that there's so much on the plates of our schools and our educators beyond just teaching in the classrooms to move our schools forward to be really 21st century schools. And the leadership team at the junior senior high school has just done a terrific job. You really do grasp what you need to do, and you get it done very well with your staff, and have built a really collegial professional atmosphere. And so I'm very pleased to be able to recognize you for that. The second thing that I'd like to recognize you for is that being key leaders in helping us get through the ordeal of Oyster River. And I say ordeal because for us it was a work in progress to examine options for the future of the school. And so it sometimes got lost that the people in the school, people who work there, are living under that threat that their school could be closed very soon. For students, that's a whole different change, but for staff, it meant a lot of job loss. And where we started out thinking we'd hear from Oyster River even in September, and then it went to November, and then it went to December, and then the end of December, and all along the way, the anxiety just continued to build in that school. You just knew it. And yet the school moved forward terrifically, and they're a terrific staff. And I do believe that a lot of it has to do with the leadership of these department chairs. So I'm very pleased that you're here tonight and to be recognized. Chris, why don't you come up and say a few words if you want.
Thank you, Dr. Hayes. As Dr. Hayes said, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And this group of instructional leaders, that's how we refer to them in the building, are one of the strongest groups that I've ever worked with. So there's no weak links. And it's great because they stayed up and they do so much extra for that huge stipend that they get. That's a joke. The countless hours, the ordering, the budget, helping out with new staff. They do a tremendous job, and it really helps my job and Chris Mazzoni's job that much easier. But Chris also steps up too. He's a department chair here because in certain departments there's not a teacher that's at the ability to lead a group of people at this time in their career, or no one wants to do it because it's countless hours outside of what they already do in the classroom. So again, I say thank you and thanks for all you did, and thanks for all you did for keeping us sane and your department sane in a time where we didn't know if we would be having high school in our building. So I appreciate all you did, and I know Dr. Hayes and the school board does as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So department chair, instructional leader for the Unified Arts Department, Annette Blake.
job.
Thank you very much. I'm going to exchange. This
All
is
right,
for
it's
your.
a deal. Great.
Stay
I'm
right
gonna
up.
put those in.
You stay right up here.
Math, Kyle Russell.
Thank you.
Social Studies, Mark Levitt. Thank you, sir.
Good job.
Science, Abigail Lewis, Hatfield, excuse me. English Department, Pam Caswell. And then also two administrators really have jumped up this year because we were left with departments where we didn't have someone that could really lead in the capacity that we needed to, and that was Chris Mazzoni and Pat Ballantyne. Chris Mazzoni does the World Language Department. Chris, come on up. Do it again.
Mercy. Mercy buckets.
And then a new department because physical education and health can fit in so many different ways, but it also can't. So it's always like that oddball. And I think Pat Ballantyne does such a great job with that kid. So
It's Pat
Ballantyne, wellness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
so much.
Thank you all.
Thank
Hey, thank you.
You get 5 minutes?
The next one is a recognition that boy, when I first learned about it, I go, really? There is such a thing? And then to find out that a student from a junior senior high school won third place in the contest was even more outstanding. What I'm talking about here is the excuse me, the first and hopefully annual New Hampshire State Tournament in rock paper scissors. And I never heard of such a thing. If you Google it, you go online, and you can see that there was a student, a young student at Derryfield School, who a year ago had a tournament within his own school, and then had the idea, I want to do a statewide tournament. And just from that little germ, created, I think, a first-time tournament with 32 teams, or 32 representatives, something like that. And if you go online, you can Google what the Derryfield competition, which the stands are filled and people screaming. It's like, it's like a basketball tournament, and it's just awesome to see. And you have it, if anybody wants to see it. But anyway, Sean Healy, sixth grader, came in third place out of all those teams, and we're proud of that too.
Hey.
Come on up. Come on up, Sean. Great job. Congratulations.
Good job, buddy. Lunch tomorrow?
How much money you get too?
Oh, I knew there was a first prize for money. Was a third prize?
Oh, yeah.
I won $100.
Good for you. Oh, all right. That was worth it, huh? Well, congratulations. Congratulations. We're going to take a brief recess now so board members can congratulate these honorees tonight, too, and then we'll have
Bet
a brief
nobody
recess.
challenges him tonight.
I don't know.
A little rusty. $100? No less.
I gotta work on it though. It's not working so well.
Well, they left us
Congratulations.
Maybe I ought to stand down on it.
I could have used something else than chocolate.
That's what I heard beside me.
I already have one.
Was it? Did somebody actually draw that? I wish I was an artist.
Have to get like practicing.
Because I
The art of the
not.
street.
I was an artist and make children's books.
How about a fundraiser selling?
It really makes the difference. Two things that really matter: teachers and students. And when you got good quality teachers.
And the parents too, because the parents are so involved.
True. Oh yeah, that's in this community. It's a big thing.
I updated
Very helpful.
those apps.
Is that a student?
A million times faster now. Oh, wow.
So Ashley's going to sing the national anthem at the next meeting. She said.
Is she really? Yes.
She put the idea in her head.
It just comes to me. Maybe you're the last meeting. You should. You can practice.
Oh, you sing?
We're back.
Oh, looks like we're back online. So we'll just wait a few more minutes.
When we get to,
I think it's an assignment.
Thanks.
yeah.
All right, this is the part of the meeting where we welcome the public to make comments. Is there anyone that would like to get up and do that? None of these students want to come up? Okay. All right, so now we will do approval of minutes. I would entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of January 9th, 2014.
I'll second that motion.
All right, is there any discussion? I didn't find any myself. All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Okay. Now on to committee reports. Ashley, what you got for us?
There's no school Monday. Finals week is next week, and it starts that Thursday and Friday and continues into the Monday and Tuesday of the next week. And then on the 29th, there's a half day, and that's also the first day of second semester. Boys basketball is 3 and 2. Girls basketball is 2 and 4. The big jump rope show is on January 25th. Let's see. On January 31st from 5 to 7, it's the chili and chowder contest supporting the 8th grade DC trip. And then also supporting the 8th grade DC trip is all restaurants downtown. They're having like a Newmarket night, I guess, and giving a portion of all the proceeds to the 8th grade, and that's on January 30th.
Nice.
So that's it.
Anyone have any questions for Ashley? Thank you very much. All right, now on to the superintendent's report.
I do have a few things. A couple of them I put on your desk this evening. One is to talk a little bit about what the Link Together Service Learning Group is doing now, because we just not too long ago honored them for their very successful winter clothing drive, and now they've started off on a new venture here. So let me talk a bit about it. Same thing as before. They're working in collaboration with Melanie Talon, who's a realtor from Keller Williams Coastal Realty, and they're collecting gently used jeans. Gently used jeans. Just by running for the Teens for Jeans program, in which jeans are collected, it will be provided to homeless youth. And then by doing that, Link Together gets entered into a raffle to possibly earn $4,000. Drive that collects the most jeans by February 12th will earn $10,000, and all of the winnings will be donated to the new school renovation project. It's pretty good. The jeans let me announce this. The jeans can be dropped off at the elementary school, at Keller Williams Coastal Realty, which is on 750 Lafayette Road, Suite 201 in Portsmouth, at Shaw's Supermarket in Stratham, at Wonderland Thrift Shop on Portsmouth Avenue in Stratham, or the Newmarket Airy, the Fraternal Order of Eagles, on Exeter Road here in Newmarket. And I think at the junior senior high school too. I'm pretty sure that's arranged. It's not on my list. But so there are lots of places where people can drop them off, and it runs from now through February 12th. And so that I hope people will take advantage of that. Plenty of places to drop off and gently used jeans to benefit homeless youth and benefit the school project. So it's really nice stuff. So congratulations.
Yes, thanks for doing that.
Yeah. The next thing Annette put before you, I should probably talk a little bit about it. But the Literary Arts magazine is out. I'm not sure how long it has been out, but it's just a terrific collection of all kinds of writing and artwork from students within the school. Very creative stuff, and it's well worth taking a look at. It costs $3, and hopefully people will do that. I'm sure they use that to defray the costs of the printing, because it's printed very nicely here. It looks like that, if we can put it on camera. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then this is probably the best point for me to talk a little bit about the handout that I put in front of you that looks similar to what I handed out at the public hearing, but at the top it now says bond hearing. And I've made some changes, but there's one in particular that I want you to kind of digest and maybe react to if it meets your approval. On the first one, which is about the bond, this is a handout being prepared for Tuesday night's bond hearing, and I took the first panel that's there and I revised it a little bit, made it a little bit more direct as to what the article is actually doing. And then I created another section, an expanded section on new school design. I've got the amount of square footage there. I have the calculation of classrooms. I really wanted to get to more specifics for this bond hearing. And it goes on to telling a little bit more about the new school design on the second page. The bottom panel on the second page says need for a new facility. That has not changed from what was handed out the other evening. At the top of the third page, there's a section on operating costs. That's new. Again, as we're talking about the full cost of doing this project, people have often asked, what are the operating costs? So I have information on that. The second panel talks about community resource. I had a conversation in the last couple of days with Amy Gigante, who's the assistant director of the rec department, and she wanted to learn more about the project, and we also wanted to talk to how might the rec department take more advantage of this new facility. What is there in the new facility that will assist them in expanding programming? And we talked a good bit about expanding adult education. I think they already had that on their radar as what they wanted to do, but now an expanded facility with the kinds of things that I pointed out to her can really help that take off even better when that comes about. Construction timeline has not changed. Funds to offset the costs, I don't believe I had that in the one I handed out the other night, but there it shows that if they do successfully pass the $500,000 warrant article on fire and life safety, then it brings all available funds up to $1,270,000. What you see at the bottom, I think, was in the handout the other evening. It's about a level debt 25-year bond, but it shows also 20-year and 30-year bonds, the tax increase over the first 10 years. It's the fourth page that I'm hoping helps to answer some questions that appear to linger out there, and that is what's it going to cost me in each year? And so what I've done, though, is give a scenario. Obviously, it's your decision when the time comes how to do that. But at the top, I've shown 6 years of a level debt, 25-year bond. And then I took that 1.27 million and apportioned it in years 2, 3, and 4 of the payments. The first year is a partial payment. And so that, I felt, okay, you certainly can decide to offset it if you like, but I decided not to in my scenario. And so in year 2, I allocated $700,000. In year 3, $300,000. In year 4, $125,000. And you can see in that chart that what corresponds to that is then a reduction in the tax rate. Tax rate that is attached to this bond, purely that. And so although the bond in the second year goes up to $4.27 a year, the net effect of using those funds to reduce the funds that you have to raise and to pay the bills, so the taxes then would be $1.75 in the first year. We know that. That's in the warrant article. The tax impact in the second year jumps up to $3.32, then $3.86 in year 3, then $4.10 in year 4, and then jumps up to that level debt amount, which by this point has reduced from $427 down to $426. And so it's a graduated approach. Again, it's just me picking out numbers, and you as a board can decide how to do that when the time comes. What follows then after that is then, okay, if I take those tax rates, what does buying this school mean to me as a taxpayer if my property is assessed at $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, $250,000, $300,000, and $350,000. And so to me, it's better than the charts that I've done before, because I think it's really clear. You can kind of pick out, okay, what's closest to my home assessment, and get a chance to see exactly what this does. Again, when it gets presented, the point is, as in buying a home, you won't really know until you apply for a loan when you buy a home what is the rate you're going to get. And it's the same with us. When we don't go out to sell the bonds until the summertime. So this is just a scenario. However, I would say Municipal Bond Bank has been at this game for a long time, and the numbers that I'm using here are the numbers that they gave us as what they predict for going out in 2014. Thoughts on that? Is that?
Well, no, I just have a couple comments.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to make sure that the top part, the tax impact, the first box that you have, it's based on the current total of town assessed valuation. That number can change too.
Yes, it can, yeah.
So that's a number we need to emphasize, that
Right.
it's,
Right.
this is like a snapshot in time as of like right now, what would happen. And this isn't going to happen right now. It's going to, so we just need, to make sure that people realize that these numbers are just estimates
Yeah.
based on the
Yeah,
best information.
Let me get at that. Those examples. I wrote a sentence in there that says the assumptions that are include. It's a bond. It's 25-year level debt. You may choose something else, 20 or 30 years, depending on things. And it's at 5% interest. It could come in differently than that. Its total assessed valuations remain constant at $744,537,000, and that will change likely over the years. And then that the available funds are used in that way. Now, when I did that distribution of $700,000, $300,000, $125,000, what I did not explain is that then leaves $145,000 still in the dual-purpose fund. You may want to run it dry, or you may want to hold money back, and I thought holding money back made sense. So that's why I just did that scenario for folks. Any other thoughts?
Any other questions?
Other than that? No.
As usual, it's very thorough. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
The others, while we're still in there, I should point out one that's new, that's still a work in progress. If you flip the page past the total operating budget, is an entirely new page that is an expanded effort to explain revenues and tax impact and how we get to the various tax impacts that we put in the warrant articles. And so it's all been laid out there, but that's still a work in progress. So if you take a look at that later on, you see anything, you say, gee, Jim, you should have done this or whatever, I'd like to hear it so I can work on it.
Great, thank you.
And that's all I have for the superintendent's report.
No other questions?
The only question I'd ask is, the public hearing was Monday night and Tuesday night? Monday night. And so now we're preparing for the bond hearing Tuesday night. And as I look at this packet, I'll ask the question. You're including all of this information, not only about the bond and the building project as proposed, but about the operating budget and all of the other warrants as well, for full disclosure and to make sure that everybody who arrives has all of that information in their hands. Was that fair?
Yeah, and I want them to walk away with that. Maybe they may not have gone to the public hearing the
Right.
other night, and so I want them to walk away with all of those pieces. The only one that I'll speak to that night is the school construction.
Right, I mean, that would be the
Both
intent, is that
schools,
we're there to talk about the building project, give everybody a chance not to go back and sift through operating budget issues and things of the
Right,
like, right? So
right.
that was the,
So I
okay.
just want them to walk out the door with
This way they
everything.
get it all, and they've got it all again in case there's any questions about everything that's on the
Right,
plate.
because even some of those other pages I've updated a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Okay, so your facilities report.
Facilities report, I made a comment in there that still has not changed. We've had one communication, Chris and I, with the architects in the design for what a future gymnasium would look like on that new site. And to me, it looked very good, and with one exception, so I emailed them back to say, look, I want you to consider this and see how you'd solve it. And so I have not heard back from them yet. So we don't have a design that we're all satisfied with on that gym just yet. And once we do, then we'll try and get a cost estimate, because some people are asking. People will at least know.
Well, I was wondering what was driving that endeavor. I think you've gotten some requests from the community.
A variety of different interests. I think people wanting to at least see what it looks like, or wanting to know what is the cost of it. You know, I mean, I'm not doing it in any kind of way to all of a sudden, wow, there's another warrant article on the warrant. It's just not that at all. But I think it gives a full understanding of the site and how it would work if we built a gym in the future. So. And that's all I have. There's heating problems at the elementary school. Christine will talk about later.
Okay. Any other questions about that? All right, so our program starts with school moderator, Bob Day. Review for the deliberative session. Said it's the review for the deliberative session.
Yes, and the bond session that you just spoke about.
Yes.
And I'd like to know, do you have an extra copy of that bond paperwork that I could have
Yes.
in preparation for the meeting?
He can have mine and you can just leave it.
What?
It's on the test, actually.
Yeah, you're passing on all that homework.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me on your agenda tonight. So this is my opportunity to meet with you before the deliberative session, and of course, now this year before the bond session, public session for the bond hearing. I want to just take a moment just to thank you for another year's worth of work on your part. I know it's always not easy, and I do respect your work very, very much, and I know a lot of the community does too. It's not always an easy thing to do, and I thank you very much. So, got through another budget cycle. We got a budget out there. We'll present it to the deliberative session. So, to start off, really, next Tuesday, January 21st at 7 p.m. in the high school gymnasium is the bond hearing. Okay, so it's a public session for the bond. Present the bond to the public for discussion, just so that they know what's going on with the bond when it comes up on the warrant. On Saturday, February 8th, starting at 10 a.m. is the deliberative session. Now, 10 a.m. is the town deliberative session, okay?
School.
School?
Start first.
We're starting first this year?
We are, yes.
Wow.
Back and forth.
I don't know if I can handle that. That's another 2 hours I gotta worry
Pressure,
about.
I know.
All right, so we're on deck first at 10 a.m. And I guess we just see how it goes, wherever it goes. And just so you know, last year was the first year that we combined the two deliberative sessions. And we need a distinctive break between the two sessions because they are two separate meetings, two distinctly separate meetings. And in order to keep the attendance straight, we have to vacate the room and then start over again. So I'll talk to Clay Mitchell and see what kind of special instructions he wants at the end of our session. We didn't communicate well last year, and I kind of ran up to the microphone as everybody was getting up out of their seats to talk about how we can vacate the room and then fill it back up. It can be kind of difficult because I think some people just like to stick around, maybe have a snack, and then just continue with the next meeting. But we do have to get everybody out and then re-registered for the next meeting.
If I can interject, we're talking with food service about possibly offering a lunch, so hopefully getting out may mean just going to the cafeteria.
That's great, because I think last year it was kind of cold, and that'd be a great thing so that people don't have to leave the site, they can come right back. Good. So I have the warrants that we talked about last, was it Monday or Tuesday? Monday? And I don't think anything's changed, right? So we have 7 warrant articles to present. The first one, as we've been talking, is the bond for the new school. The second one is your operating budget. The third is for the life safety issues / renovations. Okay. Warrant articles 4 through 7 are no expense warrants, right? It's just reallocation of fund balances. Warrant article number 4 is new this year to everybody, and hopefully it'll be a done deal. It's to set up kind of like a general fund, right, for the school board, right? Now that the law allows you to carry a surplus going forward, you can kind of have your own general fund. So that was warrant article number 4 to establish that. And then 5 and 6 is the appropriations of leftover funds, if there are any, which you don't anticipate with this budget this last year. Warrant article number 7 is for other business. Okay, so I always ask at this time for you to consider any other business that you want me to bring forward to the public. It's a good time for recognitions. It's a good time to give out awards for anything that you can think of. Or any special words of wisdom, if you want to convey any.
Do we have anyone retiring, or? Yeah?
Yeah, I think we have
We do have 4.
3. I think. 4, yes,
4.
that's right. There was a
4.
list of 4 I took this morning.
And then this is close last year also. Unless we,
Unless we
You never
bound and
know.
gagged.
It's never over till it's over.
good point.
Right?
All right, well, we'll have to give some. Do you
So-
know how many days have you started counting yet, or no? You're not that bad, okay. So we'll give that some thought.
All right, so give it some thought. If you want me to make any presentations, just give me something to work with. If you want to come up and have the podium to make a recognition, that's fine too. Okay, but that's the time to do it, and then right before we close the deliberative session. All right? So, just the generic things in preparation for the deliberative session, right? We need a non-voter area that's set up to keep non-residents, non-voters out of the general mix. It worked out well last year to have chairs in front for people that didn't care to sit on the bleachers. I know it can be difficult for some people. Probably goes without saying, you'll make arrangements for a safety officer to be present. I don't think you're going to be using any overhead slides, right? You didn't at the
I
other
won't be.
meeting.
Town might.
Okay, town might set something.
You might
up.
see a setup there, but I won't be using one.
If you want to take a suggestion from me, I think it would be good to put your stuff up on a slide. When you went through it on Monday night, it makes sense while you're there on the paper, but 10 minutes later, when you're looking at it again, it's kind of hard to follow through. A little point and direction through your tables might be helpful to people. It's for you to consider if you want. Also, please make sure that we have a stack or two of yes/no votes in case we have a silent vote that goes. And along with that, then we're going to need the voting box. to go with that, all right? That's about all I have, really. It's pretty much follows the same.
Are there arrangements for childcare that have been?
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're putting the finishing touches on it. Yeah, we don't quite have it fully staffed, but we will. Starting at 9:30 is the plan, running through 1 o'clock. I know that the town was talking about working through the rec department to get volunteers for the afternoon session. I haven't heard anything other than the original request on that yet, but we're working on that.
So as soon as we have that, can we like try and pre-publicize that to?
Yeah, once I know for sure, I will. I just don't have that commitment.
I'm trying to think, is it me or is it usually customary to have someone sing the national anthem or, did we do that last year or?
Well, we'll open up with a Pledge of Allegiance, and then usually we do either have somebody sing the national anthem or the high school band play.
I know we sent the request down. I'm not sure if they committed. Yeah, okay. So we're good.
We're good, okay.
Ashley's going to sing.
We've had some talented people sing
Yeah.
in the past, and I think it's amazed a lot of people in town to hear the vocalists.
But no, I think the band will be there, so we'll be all set.
Okay, good. So that'll go well. As far as the bond hearing goes on next Tuesday, I guess that's something you want me to present? I'd have to go back and look at my duties, which I really meant to do before I came here, but.
I mean, Kelly, you can speak to that.
I just put the feeler out there. I mean, where it's a public hearing, and I think it just kind of you're like an objective party separate from, and it just, I don't know. To me, as a citizen, I've always liked it run that way. But, I mean, it doesn't have to be. It was just like a suggestion.
Well, let's do that, okay?
Yeah.
Let's, try to keep you guys on the side.
I don't imagine that it's going to be
I'll
that
make
difficult.
an introduction and frame the issues and so forth, and then.
Okay, then I'll open the meeting.
You open the
Okay,
meeting, and I'll
I can open it, and then I can introduce Dr. Hayes to present the bond like we would typically at a deliberative session.
Right.
And he can
And you
read it.
usually give like some kind of discussion about people coming up to the microphone, you state your name, your address.
Yeah.
You know, you have, I can't remember exactly what you say, but I know you've had like a little spiel that you say about, respect
I'll
for
set some up.
yeah.
All right,
Just-
good.
Uh,
Okay. And then I guess, we haven't talked about at the deliberative session, how do you want to present the warrant articles? Do you want Dr. Hayes to do all the talking? Is you guys going to split up the warrants, or?
We haven't really talked about it. We can. Are we talking about the warrant? I mean, you did do them last year.
I've done them every year I've been here. I
Yeah.
have no problem doing it, but.
I mean, I think the way it's gone on is he presents them, people have questions, and then if we can answer, we will answer or ask him for help.
Okay. And I'll try to remember to
On the
look your
task.
way after I introduce each one. I have to read each one verbatim, and then, so I might have some difficulty with that one trust fund that's that long. But,
And so we'll have seats down front for all of us that are seated here, and then we have two attorneys coming. One is our school attorney, the other is called bond counsel. He'll be the attorney after or if we get approval, and apply for a bond. But we just thought it would be good to have both attorneys there and sitting up front with us.
good, okay. All right.
Do any of you folks that are kind of new to this, you're going to be sitting on this side. I know you've been to other deliberative sessions. Do you have any other questions for Bob about how it goes or,
No, I'm assuming that we're going to meet beforehand and discuss it. I mean, I've never been on this side of the table, so I don't want to be, I don't know exactly what I'm allowed to say or do. I'd like to know a few guidelines.
Well, we can talk about that tonight. I mean, I think
Well,
that's kind of what.
I'd like to talk about it,
Yeah.
because it doesn't only apply to you, it applies to the Budget Committee and the Town Council and all that when they're up during their deliberative session, too.
Mhm.
They should all abide by the same rules.
Yeah.
And the rules are pretty simple. You're seated up front as a board member, you're a member of the board. You as a board have taken a vote on these warrant articles, whether you're in favor of it or not in favor of it. You, when you're seated up front, should maintain the position of the board. You act as a board, you're a board member, that's the board's vote. So, for instance, if you have warrant article number 12, and the board voted in favor of it, then you, when you're seated up front, should speak in favor of the warrant article. However, you are an individual, you are a member of the town, you have a right to speak. When I'm the moderator at my session, and the other moderators should do the same, if you care to speak on your own behalf on a warrant article, you should remove yourself from your seat at the board at the front and move to the public microphone to state your point. At that point, you're an individual citizen. You're not speaking as a board member. And then you can come back and regain your seat.
So our role is just to answer the questions that are asked of us, but if I want to make a statement about any particular article, I'm going to go.
If you're going to make a statement contrary to
Okay.
the board's decision, you should remove yourself from the board and speak your own opinion.
But if it's in support, they can
If
stay
it-
with their seat?
If the board voted in support of a warrant article and the question comes to you about the warrant article, you should be speaking in support of the warrant article. If you want to say an if, however, but you really should be doing that from the public microphone.
And these are all things that we will all discuss beforehand.
Well, we're talking about.
That's the-
That's what we're doing right now. Okay. So
Because there really won't be an opportunity for us to
if I
move
had
it.
any questions, I would ask them now.
Yes.
Or-
2 a.m. Oh, no, I didn't ask that
I mean,
question.
obviously, if something comes up after, you can ask,
Yeah.
I'm sure you could even
Right.
ask Bob, you could email if you had a specific question.
So in the past, we've added a line at the bottom of the warrant articles of the position of the school board and of the budget committee. It's not required. Are you going to do that?
Yes.
We haven't voted, we're gonna vote on them tonight, so that's when ours will go in, and the budget committee voted on them last night.
Yep.
So now we can add those, so I think you won't see those X's on this
Mhm.
moving forward.
The final one, though, will hinge on whenever the Budget Committee meets to, because they did not take any position last night on the bond article. I don't know, Cliff, you know a date for that? Is it
Yeah,
going to
that
be-
meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, the next night after. So on the 22nd at 6 PM in this room, the Budget Committee will meet prior to the Town Council meeting and take a position on recommending that.
So as soon as we have that, I'll send you, Bob, the final document. We'll take care of posting it by the end of the week. We'll be all set.
Good. So you'll send me the final warrants,
Yeah.
okay? If you could do it just through the email, electronic, Word file.
I know you use it into your notes, so that's
Right,
fine.
right. And I guess at the meeting, I should see something or some notes that have your position on it, the board's position, just to clarify. Just a document, just documentation, so,
You mean the vote?
yeah.
It'll be on the
I guess
warrant.
it'll
I
be
don't
on
think
the
you-
warrant.
But
Will
you
it
don't
be
just
a-
want
will
the
it be a-
number, you want our
Yeah,
justification?
typically, I would get a signed, I would also get a signed copy. If you can show, do you sign the warrant?
Yeah.
So,
We can scan and email
Right.
it.
Yeah, okay, why don't you do that
Are
then?
you asking for our numbers, but also our justification for how we voted?
No,
the way
just
we
a,
did?
just a school board signed attesting that is the warrant.
Oh, okay.
oh,
Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
yeah.
So if I can get a PDF of the signed version as, just as an official, and then, a Word file that I could use in my notes.
So in terms of signatures, that means if making a
Wednesday
decision
night.
Wednesday night, Thursday, find time during Thursday if you can to get in, and we gotta get them all signed.
During the day?
During the day.
Now, do we still have to, there was talk that we were going to meet right after the bond hearing?
Only if we don't take a position on everything tonight. If we
Okay.
take our position tonight, I think we're fine. We
Okay.
don't need to.
All right.
Okay?
Any other questions? I mean, we're obviously going to discuss this later, but,
I just have a comment. I had a brief discussion with Chris Williams, who does the PA and that whole piece. And there's been some trouble with feedback and such last year. So I just want to let everybody know that there's some new equipment, and we're not anticipating similar problems this year. So it should be much better. They did, I think, a dry run today over there, and all systems seem to be set to go.
And he told me this evening that we'll be doing it live, not taping it. We, in the last year, purchased equipment to do remote live productions, and so he went to the school, I think today, to make sure there was the right bandwidth to deliver a good product, and he says that there is, and so it'll be live.
mm-hmm.
That'll be interesting. A little bit of a time delay, but not by much, so.
But that's no excuse not to show up.
No, be there.
No, that's
Don't
important.
just watch it on TV and then say, okay, time for me to go vote. You gotta be there.
Participate in democracy.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. So the deliberative session is an official town meeting, and there can be voting going on, all right? The warrant articles as presented will be presented in the second session to be voted on. However, dollar amounts can go up and down. Even some of the language can get changed within the warrant article at that meeting. Now, some of the warrant articles require more than a majority vote in the second session. That's not true during the deliberative session. During the deliberative session, a simple majority can change the language, can change the dollar amounts, can do quite a bit. The language says they can't change the intent of the warrant article, but it can still go a long way.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, it is a voting session, and if you want your vote to be heard, you should show up at the deliberative session.
In regard to the audio stuff, you will encourage people to they need to come to the microphone, right? We're not going to allow people to yell from the bleachers, and, I mean, as best we can.
Right.
That did happen in the past, and,
Yeah, we try to get people to come down to the microphone. It adds a little delay, but it's necessary for the video archive.
and the note
And it's
takers.
also necessary so that everybody can hear what's being said, all right?
Yeah.
And then I try to reiterate questions
Yeah.
or to clarify questions if they seem to sometimes go on and try to summarize it, so.
A comment I had around the voting, because I think sometimes it does confuse people. The only time there would be a vote is if there were a motion to modify an article. If there is no such motion, then you take no vote on it. It isn't like that group has to take a stand on every article. It's only voting on things that change. Is that right?
That's correct, and as you know, I tripped up last year on a warrant article where I thought we had a motion on the floor, but we didn't. So the warrant article, as I read it at the deliberative session, goes verbatim to the second session unless amended at the deliberative session. So somebody has to actually get up to the microphone and make an amendment to the warrant article. And then we go into a period of discussion. I have to get a second. Somebody else has to agree. At least one other person in the audience has to agree to the motion. And then there's a deliberative session. There's some talk. People state their point of view. And I try to let everybody get a chance to speak at the microphone before we go to second rounds and stuff like that. But that's where the meeting can kind of go on and on. But everybody has their right to speak, and I can't really terminate it until everybody's done talking, you know. I try to keep people focused on the amendment, all right? Sometimes they get passionate and they start talking more about the warrant article in general, but at that point it should be down to the amendment, and then we take a vote. Try as much as possible to do a voice vote, maybe a show of hands, and if necessary, a paper ballot.
And there are other mechanisms, though, in that process where people can make a motion to move the vote, correct?
That's true. That's true. So if the session seems to be going on and on and on, I'm not going to terminate it.
No, you won't,
But somebody else, another town member, can make a motion to move right to vote on the amendment.
And then there's another one, what is it, is it reconsider,
A motion to reconsider?
not to
Limit
reconsider? Yeah.
consideration.
So let me just back up a moment. So if somebody in the audience hollers out, and that's kind of an exception where I don't have to have them come down to the microphone, but we do have to identify the individual who makes that motion to move to vote, okay? If I feel like there's still 30 people standing behind the miterophone, I'm not going to accept that motion. As moderator, I'm just not going to truncate 30 people from having their say. If we're down to a few and it seems to be going over and over, yeah, we'll take that motion.
Okay.
There is a standard motion that's presented at a point after a vote. After a vote has taken place, it's a motion to limit reconsideration, and that's the language. And what that does is it says, for all the business that's happened up to that point, it's frozen in time. We don't reconsider any of the business that's taken place at the meeting. We don't reconsider that business later in the meeting. The legislation went through where in past deliberative sessions, the whole town shows up at the opening of the meeting, and as you get down through what people feel are the important warrant articles, and you get down to the dribs and drabs, people are leaving. And then some people stay behind and they go, well, let's go back to warrant article number 1, and then they change the language of the warrant article when most people have left already thinking it was a done deal. So a motion to limit reconsideration and a vote that passes it freezes the business that was previously done so it doesn't get brought back up again later in the meeting.
Great. Thank you for that explanation.
It certainly, Bob, it certainly helps if, the way you've described it, if the warrant is read and there is discussion maybe of the warrant, but when discussion ends, it simply moves to the ballot. I know a lot of communities have a tendency to get themselves, in my experience, they get themselves into trouble because they like to they like to take a motion to move the article forward, get it seconded, and then the whole room feels like it's got something to vote on. And the reality is, in the absence of an amendment, like you just said, there's nothing to vote on. There really isn't much business other than we didn't amend Article 1, it's done, and we move forward. So thank you for entertaining it that way. You're going to read it, we're going to discuss it, and we're going to move on when you feel like we've had enough conversation and nobody else has got a comment, so.
Absolutely correct.
That helps.
And some moderators in the state do it differently. They do ask for a motion to put the warrant up, and then they close it and they move
Right.
on. It takes extra time, and it's not
Confusing.
required. It's not the law, it's not the way the meeting is supposed to go. We're supposed to get through this thing quickly
Right.
and hopefully do it that way. So we don't require to close. I will close each warrant when discussion is done.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay,
This has
all
been
right.
very helpful.
Thank you.
We'll see you on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Andruski has been waiting patiently to go over the junior-senior high program of studies for 2014 and 15. Is Mr. Pavlidis not?
He has a personal event that he could not attend to today, so I'm going to take this one tonight.
Okay.
What I'm passing out is a blue piece of paper. As Mr. Pavlidis and I reviewed it today at 4 o'clock this afternoon, realized we left out senior seminar and a description for it.
Oh.
So I'm just going to, there's a couple edits that will go through here, but here's going to be the course description for senior seminar, which will be in, because that is now a graduation requirement. Seniors are currently taking that.
Okay.
I'm just going to highlight some things. There's not a lot of changes in here. And when we do the program of studies, it's based on career clusters. We start with 8th graders talking about paths that they're going to take for graduation. Are they going to go to a 2-year school? They're going to go to military? They're going to go to a 4-year school? Or they're going to go into the Job Corps? whatever they decide to do, there's career clusters that will help them get there, whatever path that they choose. So that really begins in 8th grade, and then that's the process we start here. This program of studies is just kind of a menu of services or classes that kids can take to make those career clusters. And it really helps shape them if they want to go into, become an engineer. Different classes they're going to need, obviously, heavy on math and science, less on the arts or dynamics in that case. So every kid is dynamic. Every kid has individual discussion with Mr. Pavlidis, and it's a 4-year path. Some kids do it in 3 years. Other kids take 4.5, 5 years. And other kids use different avenues, extended learning opportunities, virtual high schools, VLACs, Seacoast School of Technology. So there's a multitude of different ways that kids can accomplish their path to finish high school, and then the path that they take after it. What you see in here is the core values and beliefs as you start looking at the pages, and then you have our rubrics that we use, our school-wide rubrics that were adopted. We adopted those 3 years ago with the EASC, but we changed them, and these are the completion that we've been using this year. Every class at the high school levels uses these and evaluates their kids at least one time a year through these school rubrics. Obviously, there's classes that are a little bit more difficult to use, but again, we're looking at it for 21st century learning goals. Even wellness. Ms. Ballantyne's department will start using the research goal. So these are all goals that every kid will have in each one of their classes, no matter what career path they take. If I turn you to page 10, that's where we really start taking at the bulk of what kids have to have for graduation requirements. And that's your freshman class of 2017. And you'll see that senior seminar had been omitted on there because that's a graduation requirement going forward with next year's graduating class. But you'll see some changes that are new is that all freshmen have to take a freshman writing class. So 4.5 credits now of English, with half of it being a writing class. As I've told you, many times before, an area emphasis is our writing. And that's an area emphasis that across the state, most schools struggle with because they don't do enough writing. So we are really concentrating on all of our freshmen taking a writing class before they move on. So they have English for the entire year and a semester, half a year of writing as well. That started with this freshman class, and we're seeing a tremendous, Ms. Caswell in the English department might say it's a little bit different because they're doing more and more writing, so a lot more different types of writing, but they're seeing much better writing already beginning at the 9th grade level. Another area that will be changing with this incoming freshman is 3 years of science, but chemistry being one of those. As we're looking to push and increase our rigor in classes, chemistry is a class that we feel all kids should have, such as Algebra 1 as a graduation requirement, so chemistry's there. Now, some people say, I'm not a science kid, how do I get that chemistry class? With the different levels that we have in our classes, level 4, 5, and 6. Level 4 would be developed to meet the needs of those kids, so they're still getting the basics of chemistry for that graduation requirement. And then you'll see senior seminar. It's not listed here, but it will be here when we correct this page. Elected for all seniors, and you can see what the course description is. So that means that they will have 28.25 credits for this current freshman class, and 10.75 of those credits will be elective credits. They can choose for anything that they want. You turn to the next page, page 11. That's this current year's sophomore graduating class of 2016. They have, senior seminar was omitted again, and they too will have chemistry. That's the first class that has to have chemistry as a graduation requirement. So that's this current year's sophomore class. And again, 11.25 credits of electives. Total credits 28.25. And then if you take, my current juniors for the class of 2015, they have 25.25 credits because they were caught in the shift from a 7-period-a-day schedule to the block scheduling. So not as much, so we built it up, and that's how you get to your program. They too omitted, senior seminar was omitted, and they have to have 10.25 credits of electives. That's page 12. Then as you go through.
So the document we have doesn't say those same numbers. Is that because
Correct.
The senior seminar
Yes.
changes that?
At 4 o'clock today, that's when we caught
You're like,
that we got it.
All right.
You'll see it will be on the very last page when we do our breakout for 4 years of the school senior seminar is listed there, but we didn't put it year by year. So we have to add senior seminar and correct those elective-based credits.
Okay.
Okay, so that will be a
Senior
change.
seminar is worth a quarter credit?
Quarter credit. It's only a quarter. And you should get a presentation on that from the current senior seminar teacher and kids from that class coming up in the next couple months. They'll end, obviously, as Ashley said, with first semester. So I asked you to give me one semester to get two different groups of kids so they can come to you and talk to you about what the class means and what they've learned from it.
Who's teaching it?
Catherine McGilvery right now, we do it as a humanities-based class. So first semester was taught through the social studies department. Second semester is taught through the English department. So Sarah Cross will take it over in second semester. Pages 13, 14, 15, and 16, those are your career clusters, and those are the 16 different ways that we work with kids to get to their career path. And like I said, 2-year, 4-year, workforce, military.
Chris?
Yep.
I hate to, I'm just going to go back, I'm trying to process in my head.
Sure.
Block schedule now. I'm a guns a-blazing kind of student. How many, I read in here, eight classes, it's a half a credit each semester.
Correct.
Can I take 8? Can I take 10? Can I take, what can I
Sure.
fit in? What could I fit in if I
Well,
were,
you can-
without doing independent studies and stuff?
Just in our school,
Yeah.
8 classes.
Okay. The way the schedule works, the way the block is, I can be taking 8.
That's for a freshman, sophomore, junior.
Okay.
Seniors only have to take 7.
7.
Yeah, so they have a free period. We figured at that time they've earned it.
Okay.
But there's one caveat in there. If you're an Algebra 1 student, then you won't have it every other, you won't have it. If you're Algebra 1 or below, you'll have math every day. So once you start progressing in your math concepts, you don't have math every single day.
If I'm graduating this coming year, I haven't had a block schedule the whole time.
You've had it for 2 years. This is your second year.
It's my second year, so
Yeah.
that's why I may or may not be able to I may not accumulate the same number of credits that we
Correct.
do under the new standard.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why next year's juniors only needs 25 and a
25
quarter.
and a
There
quarter,
was no way
okay.
that they would have been able to
I
obtain
got it now.
that. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was chasing.
And
Thank
if I would
you.
have made seniors take 8 classes, they would really probably start a riot.
I'm sure they would. Been there. The room speaks.
That's right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So again, just 17 is another way to look at graduation requirements, what we look at. Same with 18. 19, we put in a graph in there, just you can see how the scope of different jobs are changing, and that's based on the career clusters. You see a lot more science, computer-based technology fields are becoming the jobs of now and into the future. And then we just talked about some prominent colleges, what they look for graduation requirements and why we've been asking to increase our graduation requirements and why the block schedule really fits what we're trying to do in our philosophy.
Is that on page 20?
That is page 20, correct?
Now, it could just be me because I'm slow, but did you just include this year the note about college math and labs sciences? I like that
Yep.
because there's some terminology sometimes
Sure.
that we don't all know, so I appreciate you putting that in there.
Great.
Thank you.
21 is just the continue with our community service aspect, still asking for the ability for school to career partnerships that's a quarter credit that we ask for all students before they graduate. That begins in 8th grade with the Naviance program, working through guidance, working through English classes, and basically culminates with senior seminar. So a lot of those skills are beginning in 8th grade, ending as a senior. Our descriptions of the different levels of classes on page 22 for you. And then we really get into the bulk of different types of classes that we offer based by department. 23, 24, 25 is the virtual high school, VHS. And again, we have that opportunity because we have a teacher on staff that teaches virtual high school, so therefore that's how we were able to have that partnership. And you can see how many different more classes we can offer to kids because we have this partnership.
And kids are taking advantage of that, right? It's
Every
still-
single period. Yeah,
Okay.
we currently put it in the library. So if you're a VHS kid, you go into the library, you take your class right there, that goes right into your schedule. Your 85 minutes is VHS meteorology, and you go there under the supervision, so you have a computer, we give you the workspace to do it. If you're a senior and you've earned your senior privileges, you have the ability to take that class at home. And we're going to promote that responsibility. You've shown us that you can get the good grades, which is a C or better in all of your classes from the period before, not getting into trouble, not coming to school late, you're not a tardy, someone that's disrupting class by coming in tardy. We'll let you take that class at home.
Great.
To continue with that concept, page 26 is Virtual Learning Academy, which is offered over in Exeter through SAU 16. Again, it's similar to VHS, but it's much closer, a little bit different way that they run VHS and VLAX. And then just discussion about how students can obtain credit from a non-traditional way. Extended learning opportunities, for example, a student that's not the best PE student might right now be able to work with Lampley Health to do some health assessments and work with them to be able to get their PE credit based on the competency standards. So again, another way for kids to demonstrate knowledge without actually having to be in that classroom. And then 27 and on really gets into your different classes. And not all of these classes run every single semester or every year. Again, we try to use that magic number of at least 10 kids sign up for a class so we offer it. So what Mr. Pavlidis will do is he'll start scheduling it out. Starting on Wednesday, SST will come in and talk to all of our 10th graders to talk about opportunities for Seacoast School of Technology. Then Mr. Pavlidis will start working with different grade levels to work on scheduling for next year. So he'll start with the upperclassmen, the juniors will go first, then the sophomores, current freshmen, and then we get the 8th graders. This is about a month process, month and a half, because it's really how we set up our schedule for the following year. So our goal is always by end of April vacation to have a blank draft of what our schedule will be like based on number of kids so that we know how our teachers will have their assignments for the following year. The only class that we are introducing as a new class this year is in the science department, and it's a physics class. I believe it's on page 43. Nope. 45, excuse me. So you'll see number 742. It's a catalog number, physics. We're introducing a half-year physics class. Because some of the feedback we've gotten from our students when they're talking about course offerings is they want physics because it looks good on their college going into their high school transcript going into college, but they're not the strongest math student, but they still want that opportunity for physics. So we've created a physics that's only one semester, half a year, that is not as math based, to help those kids to get that physics half credit and show up on their transcript. So it's an opportunity that we got. Again, with some of the other classes, when we have juniors and seniors, they're picking different electives and physics is being left out. So this is an opportunity for that physics also to get in there as well. When you're a good kid and you're doing AP chemistry or AP calc, physics kind of goes by the wayside. So again, another way, an opportunity to get the kids some of the classes that they've been asking for.
And the opportunity you had to receive that feedback from students, was that just during the scheduling process?
It's during and at the end. Mr. Pavlidis will have a checkout with every senior. How did the scheduling go? What could we have done better? How can we improve? What was the best part of scheduling? So he does that every single year. He'll do an assessment with every senior.
Who will be teaching that?
That would be through our current staffing that we have now. We just plop it in the schedule. We only have one physics teacher currently that's certified on staff. And so you go through, you can see the different offerings in different classes. You know, we're worked really hard in the last couple of years with Ms. Ballantyne and Dr. Hayes to make sure that we are have all the different accreditation that we need through the state, so we're not missing any classes. A couple of years ago, we were missing classes, so we've increased those in our offerings. And then finally, you can kind of see the culminating, picture in a graph form on page 59. That's just the 4-year plan. And there's certain classes that are already booked in by the different content areas. But again, different tracks for math. Our goal is, again, by 8th grade is to have, 80% of our kids already have had Algebra 1. So that way, when kids are going in as 9th grade, that they already have the opportunity to be in Algebra 2 or Geometry, those higher level math classes. That's what we're pushing towards. So we've been working to that path the last 2 years. Our goal is within 5 years that, that class will have that math ability to be able to do that. And then you can see we plugged in the different required classes based on the grade level that would be most appropriate for it to be taken.
And so students start with this in 8th grade?
Correct.
And then every time you meet with them, adjust it and upgrade it? And
Yep.
so it's like a working plan?
Absolutely.
As their interests change?
Yep. And this goes into Naviance. They start off with Naviance. They actually will begin that discussion in 6th grade in Naviance.
What is Naviance?
It's the computer system that holds all of that. So it's really neat. And Ashley could speak about it, but college recommendations, college transcripts, applying for college is all done through Naviance. So you can go in there and just do one common application, send it out to every school that she wants to apply for. It really helps out. And then she asks for a recommendation. I go in there, type that recommendation, and I can put it in and send it out to schools too.
How long have we had access to that?
Since I've been here, at least eight years.
Wow.
So it's fantastic.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And that also is the report we give back to you of where kids go to school, because Naviance tracks that as well.
Oh, good, okay.
Any questions? I know I sped through it, but there's a lot to look at.
Comment, I guess I would
Sure.
throw out, I caught advanced composition and TAC math
Yeah.
topics in something.
Sure.
Advanced, looked like, I don't know if it's called running start in every case, but you can get dual credit, college
Right.
credit coming out of that.
Yep.
And I know that at SST, we used to, I'm not sure if they still do, but there were programs there
Yeah.
where there was running start opportunity as well.
Running Start requires that you have someone that's a master's level teacher and certified in that area. TAC math is actually math that we teach based on our discussion with Great Bay Community College.
Okay.
To get kids, it's that gap, we were finding out that kids were not always prepared to take college math because they were skipping a year. Hence, that's why we went to, a greater requirement for math. But TAC math catches those kids that don't have the best math skills, but are also giving them that senior year to prepare them for college math.
Excellent. Well, I know that in conversation, I hear folks talk about the alternatives that kids are pursuing. Too many kids coming out of four-year schools with too much debt, not enough opportunity, backing up and trying to look at community alternatives to pursue the first year or two and then transfer into the schools that they might like to graduate from. Hey, if I can start out 2, 3, 4, whatever number of credits ahead at $100 a credit or whatever the thing is, as opposed to 700 or 800, whatever it might be at the college level. Thank you. I mean,
Absolutely.
the more we can do that, and the more, especially as we keep pushing back down the grade level. You were just talking about algebra and being ready and done and moving forward with additional math work when we hit college, when we hit high school. The more that we can do to get that running start. Knock on wood. That's outstanding.
I
Thanks.
just add to it too. You always ask how many kids take AP classes and how important it is, and we don't always have the greatest numbers, but we push kids that don't always sit for the test.
Right.
But the one great thing about AP tests is if you get a 4 or 5, that can count as a college credit. So in years past, we've had kids that have already had 25 credits going into college because they've passed so many AP tests out of 4 or 5. So it's a tremendous opportunity that you allow us to continue to do
That is
when
huge.
3 or 4 kids are sitting for a test and doing so well. So it's a kudos to keeping those small numbers and still allowing us to run what we can do for all of our kids.
Anything we can do to round the average back to 4 years, since it felt personally like it was getting to be 5 or 6 in college. I think this is great.
Any other questions or comments?
I've got a few, probably. Colleges do the statistics of successful graduation not on 4 years these days. It's largely on 6 years.
6, yeah.
But scholarships are usually only guaranteed for 4. So you might find yourself with a jump in expenses when you get to year 5 that aren't anticipated. Sorry for the aside. I'm going to look forward to hearing what Ashley has to say, if she has any opinions on all of this. But before, so I'll give you a chance
Give you an
to
opportunity to
think
think.
a little bit, because I'm really curious. We got you here. It's
And
a
then you
great-
can sing.
I'm not going to make you sing. He'll sing. Tech literacy I saw in there as a graduation requirement in 9th or 10th grade.
Right.
I kind of think these days of tech literacy as learning to read in the 1st grade. And I'm wondering how much we can push that towards an 8th grade sort of thing. Because if you've got those skills mastered, now you can type a paper and not be thinking about typing the paper. You're thinking about content.
Sure.
So I guess that's, I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Absolutely.
Or,
I'm glad you brought it up. We've actually been doing a major overhaul with what we've been doing for computers and computer education. So tech literacy is not just learning to read, but how to read computers in all aspects, all different programs. We've talked about it, how it's going to change in 3rd grade, how we do testing with computers with the new the Smarter Balance testing going forward. So with the changing in staffing that we have, the staff member at our building has really worked really hard to change the curriculum to become more of that. Just in 8th grade, they're doing more computer-based literacy in classes. She actually goes into the classrooms and does it with all the content area teachers so that they're coming in as 9th graders already bypassing that and being able to step it up to the level, getting more of those 21st century learning skills. presentations, documents, and how to put it, in correct, presentation form. So that's really what our curriculum is changing to, and you'll see that coming down the road. This is her first year here, and she's been changing all the curriculum maps and changing the concepts to be higher order thinking skills and higher skills for that content specific. So that is something that we're pushing and changing. I'm glad you brought it up, because what you're talking about is really basic skills that we be taught in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade level that we've been doing in the past. So it's been a major shift.
Great. The 742 physics class, that's a level 4 class, I think, listed, but I'm trying to get a sense of who would take that. You mentioned that maybe kids that would be taking AP Chem and Calc.
As you know, in all of our classes, you can bump up, because we don't have sometimes enough kids to take a level 6 physics class or a level 5, so we combine them together. Put level 4 so it doesn't discriminate against any kid being able to take that.
Okay.
But you can bump it up to fit it in your schedule. You want to work harder? Here's what a level 5 kid will have to do. You want to work even harder to get that L6 in an adjusted credit? This is what you'll need to do. We contract with all those kids. A lot of it's meeting with teachers after school hours, and doing some increased work. So we put level 4 so it doesn't deter any kid from saying, yeah, I want to try it. Much like our chemistry L4. That would, a kid now, I did really well in chemistry L4, I'm going to try physics L4. So that's where it goes. So we use levels, but I almost hate to use levels, because we try to individualize so much of what we do.
And there's so much differentiated instruction that happens all the time everywhere. It's great to hear you to say that in those terms. Is there a chemistry analog to that? I'm trying to get my head around adding the chemistry requirement, and I don't want to be heard as not being in favor of chemistry. I have a degree in chemistry.
Sure.
That's, I go to work and think about electrons every day.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to discourage that, but I know that a lot of folks struggle with chemistry, and it's a very math-based science.
Sure.
And I'm trying to get a sense for, what if someone really is struggling with math? Maybe they're in that Algebra 1 sort of everyday environment. Is chemistry, or maybe more an applied chemistry, an earth science requirement, a better fit?
Applied chemistry would be a great way of saying it. Again, if a kid is not capable, maybe IEP struggles, that would be a requirement that we would waive. We'd look at that graduation requirement if they can't meet the demands of that class. So again, individualized for every kid. I think that we're at the point with the way we've revamped the curriculum from L4 up to AP chemistry, that we can find a way for every kid to get the concepts that they need at their level and their speed to be able to have an understanding to meet the competencies that are being taught. And that's through discussion, and again, that's what the department heads do, really breaking down that curriculum to do that. But it'd be more of an applied chemistry, much lower, a lot more hands-on discussion in class. We tried it 3 years ago. We really adapted that, and it went really well for some of those slower rate learners, doing much more hands-on in the classroom with an applied chemistry.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
So, actually, I'm sorry, I put you on the spot earlier, and I'm just kind of curious on your perspective of, gee, I wish it was this way back, for me, or getting out alive before this happens, or.
If anything, I wish we started block scheduling like my freshman year, just because you had room to take so many more classes. Like, looking through this now, I'm wishing like, oh, I should have taken this class, But I like that there's this physics class now, because in the physics class I'm in, it's 4-5, and some of like the L4 kids who just like don't like math as much, they're like over their head, and it's good that they have this now, which I think is good. But is it like the whole year in one?
No, it's taking the competencies
like,
and condensing them.
Okay.
And it's not going to that higher math, competencies that you do with some of the content that you're being asked to cover.
And another thing is that like, if it's a L5 class, some of the teachers, like with our anatomy class this year, there was a handful of students interested in L6, so she made that option available too. So there's always options for moving up a little bit. So, and that's good that we offer that. That's about it.
Anyone else have any questions?
You may have seen in my superintendent's report notes that obviously you have a lot of information all at once, and you got a lot of you, it's the first time looking at this, so we had thought, and it fits with our time schedule, if you if you want. Take it home, look it over, time to ask questions, but we would like approval, because in many respects it's policy. But we do that at the February 6th board meeting.
I have two more questions.
Sure.
I just wanted- The New Hampshire Scholars
Yep.
opportunity, is that in here somewhere? Is
It
just
should be. If it's not, then we will make sure it's in there, because it outlines it, significantly.
Yeah,
And-
I
and the-
didn't look hard for it, but.
Yeah, and it should be. In years past, we've always, this is what New Hampshire Scholars has.
Can
The
you
one
explain
nice
that
thing.
just a little bit, in case people don't know what
Yeah,
that means?
it's New Hampshire, it started, state of New Hampshire, Department of Education, talking about specific class that the whole state of New Hampshire, they would want to see kids to have to achieve higher level classes, which then you become a New Hampshire State Scholar, a medallion when you graduate, a stamp on your diploma, meaning that you have taken, very rigorous courses through your high school class and done well in them. And again, I'd have to look at the specific classes so you can actually outline it, but that's the gist
presented
behind it.
to them during the scheduling process, and they have
Absolutely.
like the
Yep.
option to
And the
go
one
that
nice thing,
course.
I know we did include it this year, when you look at the SST things, SST was finally approved for New Hampshire Scholars. So now kids that go to SST can get credit, and we can accept that as a New Hampshire, because that was sometimes we'd have trouble. Kid that's really a great engineering student, they go there for 4 years, they miss out on some opportunities with us. So now they can take some lab classes over at SST and it will count as part of the New Hampshire Scholar Program.
I think that the requirements now are above those for the New Hampshire Scholars.
Our
Our
requirements are.
basic
Yeah.
requirements.
Yeah.
So pretty much, if everyone meets all of our basic, the whole class is gonna have medallions.
It's a lot of medallions.
That's what I like.
I don't mind
A lot
doing
of kids
that.
go to concerts.
You'll see on pages, for SST 53 through 57, it talks about New Hampshire Scholars and what's now met for SST.
Okay, great.
But I'll give you the other classes as specific to ours. I can add
Yeah, I
that
was
in.
just
Sure,
curious.
absolutely. It's a great question.
And then the only other question I had was, when do students get these? Because, I mean, I don't know, maybe I was a nerd, but I was always looking forward to knowing
Sure.
what else I was gonna take, and, like, obviously, we're approving it right now. When-
It's online right now, so the current one is online, so it's
Okay.
always there, so it'll just be updated.
All right.
We physically give these to 8th graders, say, go home, work through it with your parents. They're the only ones that get it. Everyone else, it's online.
Okay, so it's an online-based kind of, okay.
And then they can just go through and pick it.
Yeah.
A couple more things. It's great that we're doing it this time of year. It seems like it's a comfortable time to do it rather than a rush when we're pushing the schedule. It's also a great break from having just spent a lot of time talking about numbers and budgets and all that. It's getting back to
The meat of,
of something I enjoy more. And I would recommend that we don't take action on this tonight, and I guess just in part in that the chemistry requirement is coupled with a policy that's a first read tonight. So if we do this ahead of that, we're kind of have a disconnect.
Thank you for that. Well, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Always very thorough, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Okay.
Bob? Don't forget your hat.
I did forget
All right, so now we're moving on to Budget Committee meeting 115 results. We don't have anything in here specifically to
No,
look,
no,
but it's just.
I wasn't sure what may evolve out of last night's meeting, so I just simply put it on there that Cliff could add any comments he wanted.
Oh, well, I've got a few things to discuss, and I'll hit some of them briefly. All of the articles were supported by a majority of the Budget Committee, with the exception of Article 4, which you see in the copy that was distributed tonight, where that was not recommended by a vote of 5 to 6. I think the feeling about that was largely that this warrant has a lot of financial aspects to it, and that maybe we could look at that at a different year, perhaps, or there was discomfort with that. I guess I'll leave it at that. The Article 2, the operating budget, as I said, was supported by the Budget Committee by a vote of 7-4. However, there was more discussion, there was some at the budget hearing, but there was more discussion about how we represent the tax impact of that. And there was a motion that carried at that meeting that, as the Budget Committee representative, I'm going to do my best to support that, is that there should be some better clarifying language as to, or we should, the school board, the motion was that the school board should consider adding clarifying language toward the end of that article so that it is more clear the magnitude of increase in the budget. If you were to look at article, the budget as it was, as we're looking at in this warrant, and compare it to last year's, the increase was over $1 million, and that there's a disconnect between that and the tax impact of 49 cents per thousand. The 49 cents per thousand has been calculated based on what, and Nate, I'm actually going to, I think you'll have a lot of value to add to this discussion, how other districts have perhaps have handled this, but essentially the 49, and correct me if I go astray, the 49 cents is comparing the total tax burden of last year's warrant. There's this budget would increase over what we paid per thousand as taxpayers, 49 cents per thousand. And that's the message we're conveying to the voter. The number that has been tossed around in the Budget Committee meetings has been $1.70 per thousand increase, but that's comparing last year's budget to this year's budget, and
taking into account changes in revenues, which are not in question and being voted on, and are very much preliminary estimates at best.
Mm-hmm. So.
Thank you.
So the request is to add, or to consider adding some clarifying language. And with that, I guess, Jim, if you want to add anything, or we can enter a discussion about potentially doing that.
Well, I think I'll pass the ball to Christine, because it's something that I know she worked on today, and also on your desk this evening was a list of, it looks like 8 different options here, and I'll let Christine.
Can I just ask something? Because I'm trying to figure out where the confusion is. They're taking last year's budget and all the articles that we voted on, and he's taking that figure, or the Budget Committee's taking that figure, and putting it together with this year's and coming up with $1.70? Or are they? I was trying to figure out where the confusion was coming from. And it seems to me, from what I was hearing from Christine, it was from past articles impacting the last year's taxes?
I think that I haven't run the number myself on my own calculator, but the $1.70 number that has been discussed is taking the difference between last year's operating budget and this year's operating budget, dividing that by the total assessed value.
Okay.
To get a tax impact of the change exclusive to the operating budget. I don't necessarily think it is the opinion of the Budget Committee that we change this number to show $1.70, but there was a majority of the Budget Committee thought that, you know what, we should look at trying to make it more clear.
Do you still want clarify, I mean,
Yeah.
I
No,
think
I was just trying to, last night listening to
it's
it.
confusing.
It was very confusing, and at some point, I had it, and then I got lost as the discussion went on, and I couldn't quite figure out where he was getting that number from.
Can I try and help?
Yes.
In that set of handouts that I showed you tonight, it's one of the reasons that I created the new page. It's like the third sheet in, I think, or fourth.
The
It says revenues and tax impact.
Is that what they had last night? Is that?
This is very similar to what they had last night. If you look at the table that's on that page, under FY14 approved, for the general fund operating budget, it shows $14,843,000, which was then, below it, was adjusted downward because of passage of the teacher's contract. So that meant that the revised FY14 operating budget was $14,806,000 and change. Okay? And then the proposed one you see there of $15,861,963, if you subtract those two, that gap is $1,055,000 and change. Obviously, our budget has taken a significant leap. What transpires through most of this table is then an accounting of all of our other operating budgets, food service, federal funds, then our revenues. And you see 2/3 down the table, it gets to, under FY15 requested, it gets to total school tax of $17.86, and it subtracts the current school tax of $17.37 to get a differential of 49. And what they're saying is that 49 cents doesn't correspond to $1 million gap. See that 1737?
Mm-hmm.
That comes from the remainder of what's below. Because if you look at the FY14, that 1737 represents all that operating stuff that I just walked through, plus 3 warrant articles. So on one side of the ledger, it's representing operating budget plus warrant articles, and on the other side, it's comparing it, the other side figure is simply the operating budget. And so there are different perspectives, but, I think their perspective is that it really should be operating budget to operating budget and show the true increase of whatever $1 million translates into. And yet the common practice and expectation from DRA is that you compare the operating budget to the current tax rate. And so that's, the best way that I have of understanding it is it answers the question of how much more will I pay if only the operating budget passes. One way or another, we have to have an operating budget. We don't have to have these other warrant articles, but we either get the regular, what's proposed, or we get a default. We come out of this with an operating budget. And so it's the, so the 49 cents represents the difference. If that's the only one that passes, then your tax rate goes up 49 cents. But I get why people feel we're not comparing apples to apples here. We're comparing to apples and oranges, and that causes discomfort. If that helps.
In the past, I have the warrant article from last year's deliberative session. So that would be Article 1, which was
Last
the
year, yeah.
operating budget, versus this year's Article 2. I'm looking at that same box on the top right, and the wording of last year's versus the wording of this year. This is how, in my memory, we've reported it. And that's how we show the tax impact for that one warrant article.
There was a change last year, though, right? The town,
voted.
that's what is different.
Okay.
There's probably, I don't know if this concludes it, but there was an article on there that we all voted on to say whether or not we could include tax impact on the future
Yeah.
warrant articles. So this one, we weren't allowed to put the tax impact on, but the one for this year, we are, and that's where the argument is
The
coming.
warrant
But
articles.
I would say, we have always at least reported out an estimated.
Yes.
We have during
Tax
our
impact.
sessions, but on the actual
Right.
warrant,
On
we've
the
never
warrant,
been
it's
able
not.
to include that.
But the methodology that we used is what we're using today. I mean, I didn't bring it along with me.
No,
It
no,
was
no.
in- It was in
It's a-
place years
yeah.
before I came, and so every year it's been done that way, and from what I gather is consistent with what happens in other districts, and.
So
and,
does that explain,
yeah,
like,
right.
because.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Yeah.
looking for, because for myself, to understand it all, just as a community member, I like common language, the last year versus this year, what it looks like. I'm familiar with the format, I'm familiar with the wording, but it seems to me we're being asked, I guess, as a consideration, to change the wording on it to help clarify. So is that what those options to clarify?
Want to talk to
To add
those,
those
Christine, what
in?
you gave them tonight?
Sure. So what I did is I did a little research just to see what other school districts, towns have done. And so I just gave you 8 basic options. The first option, if you want me to read it, I can, is what the town does currently, right now. So that's exact language that the town of Newmarket is putting on their warrant articles, and they have been.
Except for one word, though, right?
It-
Wasn't that
we
what you
put,
said?
yes, yeah.
Forget what we put
So
in
it
there.
reads,
Yeah.
if passed, it is estimated that the passage of this article will amount to $17.86 of the total, which is the word we put in, total tax rate, which is a 49-cent increase over the previous year. If the article is defeated, the default budget will amount to $17.58, which is a 21-cent increase over the previous year. So we just added the word total in there. So we felt that was more clear.
And then the
I
other
feel
options.
like that's more confusing for people, personally, because there's
That was
so
my-
many
that's my
different
reaction,
numbers
too.
in it, you know?
It's
It-
so many numbers.
Yeah,
I mean, this
but, I mean, I'm not opposed to changing it or making
Yeah,
it
but-
clearer, but I feel like that option 1 makes that, so let's go
They
through.
actually.
So,
vote.
I mean, option 2 is if the Budget Committee's proposed
always-
operating budget passes, it is estimated at this time that the tax rate will
We just
increase
weren't
by
allowed to
49
put it
cents.
on the warrant.
So that was another district. The school's portion of the tax rate is estimated to increase 49 cents per thousand. That was another language. Estimated tax impact is $17.86.
And that's a scary one.
That's a scary one.
Yeah.
The estimated tax impact of this article is $17.86 versus $17.58.
So they could do the math themselves.
Yep.
But you need to interpret that to know it's,
Which one's
Right,
which?
right.
one's
right.
default
add
and
to
one's,
these
yeah.
Oh, you absolutely
Yeah,
can, but these
these
are
are
She's just giving you examples what other districts
okay.
do.
That's exact
Yeah.
wording that I pulled off of other districts' warrant articles, so you could see what options exist out there that give you some guidance.
So it's other districts' language
Current
with
language.
our numbers.
With our numbers.
With our numbers, right.
Yep. What number am I on?
6.
6, thank you. The tax impact of warrant article number 2 is an estimated increase in the tax rate of 49 cents. Option 7, the estimated tax impact of this article is 49 cents per thousand of assessed valuation. Number 8, if passed, it is estimated that this article will result in an increase of 49 cents over the previous year's tax rate of $17.37.
I like that one, personally.
I actually like that one too.
I'd love to hear from you.
That's what I'm waiting for.
I mean, my kids call it, I don't know why they call it this, they call it learning lane. Oh, God, Daddy, here comes the learning lane.
Learning lane.
When you're explaining.
Which is when Daddy gets on his lecture circuit, right?
Learning lane.
And so maybe you'll forgive me or maybe you won't, that I have to editorialize for a moment and say, I apologize to anybody who thinks that my next comment is non-transparent, but I have always been opposed to adding more and more and more language to our warrants, our ballots. And this, in classic New Hampshire style, was offered up as enabling legislation so that you could go ahead and do whatever you'd wanted to do, but without any great guidance statewide, so that in every community all around the state, everybody's probably doing it differently. And even on the town side and the school side, we do it differently. So really what we effectively do in the state of New Hampshire is we create yet more confusion and reason to do battle in all of our communities. I would certainly expect that on the next presidential ballot, beside the candidate's name will be hometown, date of birth, their religion, where they went to college, what their last voting ballot. I mean, we have a pretty well informed and educated and interested and participatory community in Newmarket, and we've done a pretty good job in all of my experience in putting lots and lots and lots and lots of data out there, both municipal side and school side. We litter the town walls with information and literature, and there's no secret that this is $1 million plus, and it's a big impact, and special ed was a big component of it, and so on and so forth. But again, in classic style, if I can lecture, I watched last night and I see where we end up, and I wouldn't for a second suggest that any opinion that I heard expressed last night was wrong, because it is significant. And 49 cents does seem not intuitively connected to $1 million worth of new money being raised. But again, as we've already heard described, if you do it any other way and you count up the tax impacts on the ballot, by the time we're done, it will look like the tax rate is going to rise way more than it's going to if you approve all of the articles that are here. And so in an attempt to, try to make sure that we are being accurate, and I think that the numbers are here, the justification, the reasoning has always been there, I just feel bad that we as a state end up marching down this path, and then we end up frustrated and concerned and confused in this kind of situation. I certainly understand where the number that was in the $1.41, $1.42 range came from, which is essentially that $1,055,000 of new dollars in that budget divided over our tax rate. I'm not comfortable personally with my experience delving into all of the changes in revenues and such. In Article number 2, the voters will be asked not to vote on what they want the tax rate to be, or what they think the tax rate will be, or what the revenues are projected to be, or whether they think we can raise some different revenues, or whether they'd like to avoid revenues, or any of those things. They will be asked to approve a spending dollar amount. And I can only imagine that when folks sat around in Concord and contemplated enabling us to put numbers on there, they were probably at the basest level saying, give us the best apples to apples you can and tell us what it is. But in practice, again, classic New Hampshire, it isn't as simple as that. So I want to shout out and say I certainly appreciate the opinions expressed and the concerns that 49 cents doesn't seem to communicate intuitively that dollar amount. But I certainly want to say, I think we will continue to do an outstanding job educating our public, and they'll understand that this is $1 million, and they'll be able to look at our budget documents, and they'll know why it's $1 million. And in all of these documents, we can even show that it by itself has an impact that is greater than 49 cents. But what this 49 cents really says is, when you approve our operating budget request, you will see a reduction of your tax rate because of the things that go away from last year, and an increase offsetting that because of the new money being requested in the budget. So the 709 for life safety that was on the ballot last year, and the 25 for something in the utilities, those things go away, which saves us money on the tax rate. But at the same time, we're approving a budget that doesn't include those things, and that raises it. And the net of that's 49 cents.
That's not intuitive, though.
It's not.
For us, we live it, we breathe it, and I'm even having
Absolutely.
a hard time understanding it. And I think that's the concern, is that we do a wonderful job educating. And Dr. Hayes has introduced these wonderful handouts every year. But the concern is they don't bring these into the voting ballot box with them.
But how do you vote? How do you decide which box to check those two people that are on the ballot? How do you know who it is that you want?
The concern is that there are people in our community that don't have electronic ability, don't have the means to come out to these meetings, and they go to the polls. That's all they do. They don't come to these other things and hear all this stuff. And so the concern is, we want to make sure that the warrant is as explicit at that moment when they're casting their ballot. Am I wrong? I mean, is that
I agree.
really
I agree.
what? I agree with everything you're saying, but do I feel like it wouldn't hurt to make it a little bit clearer? Like I said, we understand it to our own level, but I don't know. Who else has any comments? out of these, Cliff, do you have a favorite or?
There are some that I definitely don't like.
Yeah.
And I guess, I'm kind of approaching it from the, I guess it's the Hippocratic Oath perspective, right? First, do no harm. So, my mental exercise now is to read through these and think about them in addition or replacing other text. And does it make it more or less confusing? And if it makes it more confusing, then definitely not.
I mean, number 6 is basically what it's already saying within the current language. So I would
Just
say,
with more
if
words.
you agree, put a little X through it or whatever.
As well as 7.
I kind of like number 7, but you're right. I mean, because really, ultimately, isn't that what you're trying to compare each warrant article to, is what it's going to pertain to your 1,000 per 1,000 rate?
1,000, right.
So, I mean, but as we would say, most people who are paying attention to their taxes know that it's based on that one per one.
Can I just ask, by us doing this for Article 2, does this mean that we should then use that same wording on all of the other articles?
No, but, well, I can answer what I think, but, this article specifically, like has been demonstrated, is not comparing apples to apples. All the other ones are just straight cut. I mean, I'm not saying it very clearly, but maybe you could do a better job.
I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, so if wording on Article 2 is this way, and then people, because I like how we've tried to use the same common formula of the language we use for each one, and just to see something different on one and not the others, I don't know, is that opening up another can of worms?
Well,
Is it going to add confusion?
Again, what I think is different about this article is that one way or another, it raises and appropriates money. Whereas the others, if they're defeated, fire and life safety is defeated, bond is defeated, raises no money. But one way or another, you're coming out of here with a tax impact.
Yeah.
That does make it different. So it is a little bit easier to say that it's a certain amount of money over and above the tax rate. I don't think you can really carry that forward to others because they get piggybacked on top of this.
It will either raise your tax rate by 49 cents or it will raise it by 21,
Yes.
depending on whether you
That's
vote
right.
yes or no as a community. And that's not true for everything else. And that's perfectly spoken, because I think that was the message last night that you're trying. Forgive me, I wanted to validate that it's confusing, and the arguments that were expressed last night have merit, for sure.
That's kind of why I'm taking a backseat and letting you guys.
It has real tax impact, but when the ballot is all done, if you voted no on everything, your taxes are going to go up 21 cents, estimated. If you vote yes on only the operating budget, it'll go up 49 cents. If you vote yes on other things, again, as a community,
Yeah.
we're going to have greater increases, and those are reported there. 67 cents for the $500,000 warrant article, number 3, $1.75 right now is the way it's worded for the bond, et cetera, et cetera. So
I don't know where that leaves us.
the only thing that I see is that option number 1 offers more information in terms of what we just said. It tells you not only what the increase would be as a result of the yes vote, but also of the no vote. And it is consistent, I think, with what the town of Newmarket's been doing on the municipal side.
And having common language within
Amen.
our town borders, I think has
I'm
a
all
lot
for
of
that.
merit.
Yep, it has a lot of merit. If we're going to confuse them, let's confuse them consistently. Both sides.
Although I do think 8, it has a similar
Yes, it does.
flavor to it. To me, it feels clearer because of just the way it's phrased as opposed to number 1.
I feel like 1 is just too cumbersome personally, and if I had to choose, I think I like number 8 myself.
I agree with that. Because I think that was the common thread through the discussion, was that they wanted to show the increase over last year's tax rate. And so using those words of concern, I think option 8 addresses that and makes it clearer.
Now, you're saying that I'm assuming with with another sentence shown there, if defeated, the increase would be 21 cents
Over the
That's
over the
fine.
Over
previous.
1737,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's fine.
That's number 8, right?
So it would
Yes.
be number 8 with the addition of
The default
the
language.
default language.
So it's basically the same sentence, if defeated, and then change the 49 to 21 cents.
So repeat the whole thing, but with defeated. Okay.
Defeated and with 21 cents, right?
Do we,
Somehow we just amended 8 to be something like 1, but not quite. Can you run that back to me?
Pretty much.
Well,
Well, there's
the first sentence
differences.
explains if it passes, but people need to understand that if it's defeated, that's the default budget, and that has a tax impact of 21 cents per thousand.
Okay, so something like what you just described is, it is estimated that passage, or if passed, it is estimated that this article will result in an increase of 49 cents over the previous year's tax rate of 1737. If defeated, the default budget will amount to an increase of 21 cents
Yeah.
over the previous year, or something like that.
What
said
I'm
that way.
getting-
I was going to use the same sentence. It is estimated this article will result
Oh,
in an
gotcha.
increase of
I gotcha.
21 cents.
Over the previous.
So I use the same words, just change passed to defeated and 49 to
What
21.
I'm getting hung up with is, it is, in number 1, it is estimated that passage of this article will amount to 1786. I'm afraid people are going to get confused and think that that's going to be the total increase somehow. You know,
So the only thing that I would ask is, and I'm not sure if you like, but in the language of number 1, it speaks to of the total tax rate,
Oh, yeah.
and I hesitate to break down the tax rate and confuse people, but would you add the word school in number 8? In
Yeah.
front of tax rate? Or local school?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Local school tax rate. If passed, it is estimated this article will result in an increase of 49 cents over the previous year's local school tax rate of. Because the 1737 isn't the whole tax rate, it's not the
No.
mill rate. it's
right,
only
right,
part of it,
right. That's a good
And
point.
it doesn't include the, I don't think, doesn't include the state, the SWEP, right, the statewide property tax? So, previous year's local school tax rate.
So does someone have the actual complete thing written so we could hear it?
If passed, it is estimated that this article will result in an increase of 49 cents over the previous local school
Previous year's local school tax rate.
rate of 1737 with,
Hold on, I'm trying to like rate.
oh,
Oh, sorry.
No, he asked a question, but hold on a second, because I didn't hear what Nate was saying.
If passed, it is estimated that this article will result in an increase of 49 cents over the previous year's local school tax rate of $17.37. If defeated, it's estimated that this article will result in an increase of 21 cents over the previous year's local school tax rate of $17.37.
I like that.
Right? That's where I think we're at.
It still makes it
It does.
wordy and confusing.
Because in the default, we scaled back from the 1,055,685 to,
Eight something.
okay, and that's 21? I want to be sure?
It is.
Are you all set?
What's that?
Okay, 21, then good. I like it.
So this is, to be clear, in replacement for the last sentence, the estimated tax impact of this warrant article is 49 cents. Right?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to make that change.
I'll second it.
All right,
have
I
it,
would,
Jen.
I
I
would
do have
ask
it,
for
yeah.
discussion, but I guess this is my question.
Got it.
Oh.
We're going to go through these individually and have to pass them, not have to pass them, but.
Yeah.
So couldn't we just include that language and do it in one motion at that point,
Yeah.
rather than have multiple?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
so procedurally, I will retract my motion.
I'm not saying we won't, I'm just saying, let's move on to the next thing on our agenda, since we're already there.
I'm jumping the gun as I've done before.
No, I mean, and maybe while it's still fresh in our heads, perhaps we should just go directly to Article 2, talk about the other issues we may or may not have, and then do that one first, if that's okay with everyone.
Works for me.
Anyone?
Works for me.
Okay, so we have some new people here. I mean, as in the past, we have read the article and then we go around and people talk about concerns or whatever they have, and then someone makes a motion to accept the article, or maybe not, as written, and then we have a discussion, and then we vote on each one, and that's where these little X's will be filled in. So, with that said, who would like to open up the motioning?
You're starting with 2?
Yes.
Are we going to discuss it? We've just discussed it, so now you want us to
Just, first we just need to make a motion to,
accept it?
yeah.
I move to accept Article 2 with the new language that we just discussed.
I'll second that.
Perfect. All right, so do we have any further discussion? I think we talked it to death. I mean, you have it written, this document will be amended to include
Right.
that, and then we'll
Right.
see it. And you have it appropriately, so if there isn't anything else, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nothing, all right, so that's,
Motion carries.
motion carries, sorry. I always forget to say that. Thank you. All right, so you've got that. So now we can.
5-0, right?
5-0, sorry.
Kelly, before we do move on, though, I do need the board to take action on the default budget number. So then you can sign the default budget.
Separately.
Just did,
You want to use that? Okay.
didn't we?
Well,
I thought that was to recommend.
Wait, clarify, I'm sorry.
Oh, I hear you.
That was just a recommendation of the article, but not the voting of the default budget number.
Where is the default budget number?
The
So-
second number in Article 2,
I-
the 16,438.
Oh, I see, I see.
Okay, so we have to
I
say
would
that as
Formally
well.
adopt that
I
number.
would move that the board adopt, or that the board accept default budget number of $16,438,782. 16,438,782. Oh, you've got a copy, great. And include that in Article 2 on the warrant.
I second that.
Any discussion?
I just have a quick question. With this default budget, if this does not pass, what does that mean for cutting programs, staff, materials?
Well, don't everybody
What-
look at me.
We're making you the bad guy.
That's a
apparently.
discussion that
Yeah.
the administrative team would have to have.
Wait, if that happens, right,
Yeah,
we
Between
work
the
it out, and then we
differences,
come back to
because-
you folks and say, here's what we think.
The difference between them is essentially like the first grade teacher, some supplies, a variety of things. The
Some
1%
technology.
raise for the classified staff,
Right.
so that's not a decision that I would make individually, so
Right,
we'd bring
that's-
that back to the
It
team
would
and
then come
discuss
back
it.
to us and.
Okay.
we-
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
Okay.
different than had the budget committee reduce the proposed number. We would come back to you and say, here's the number, how do we
Okay.
make this work, here's our recommendation, and you react to it.
Okay, thank you.
And where they're, our paid staff, if you will, to be experts in the function of the district and where the cuts can come from most appropriately, we would certainly want to look to their guidance, but want to engage in conversation about
Right.
what that means for program, and did we consider this, and
So again,
that
if somebody's been
process.
paying attention to all this and is watching the school board meetings when we went over line by line by line, everything that is going into our budget, if they don't pass this, the regular Joe he's gonna see the 21 cents and the 49 cents. If he hasn't, or she hasn't been paying attention, they might go with that 21 cents, not realizing they're actually probably hurting the school and their school community.
Valid,
That's
it's a
just-
valid point.
I guess that's
mean,
my,
That is,
I mean, that, to me, that would be the wording I would like to add
yeah.
to Article 2.
I think to me, that's the less confusing.
No offense to anybody, but I mean, to really paint the true picture of it, that's what it would mean for the default budget. But that would just, that's just my 2 cents.
I think we will have an opportunity, personally, at the deliberative session, to make that clear. I mean, and I think that's the forum where we have to really drive that home. And usually there are questions about the default budget. And am I wrong? Typically, the default budget in the past, it's been more.
It can be.
Yeah, and
last
this,
year it was.
it was, so,
Well, especially when you lay off staff.
right. And
Right.
That makes it easy.
that's the easier part, yeah.
And to speak briefly to some commentary last night at the Budget Committee meeting, our budget hasn't always gone up every year. In fact, last year, the budget, or the total budget was down. And not dramatically down, but it was down. And that was for, the last staff reductions that added up to the 15.5 that's occurred over the last 3 or 4 years.
Right, so if you're involved in the school and you're involved in this sort of thing, you know that our budget's gone down. We know because we've seen it in our community. But you're saying in the deliberative session, we're gonna be able to get that across. If we don't do this, this is the consequence.
So will we be able to have those suggestions from the administrative team so that we can answer any concerned citizens if they come and say, okay, well, what does it mean if we vote this down? What does that mean for cuts?
Well, I think it might be prudent for us to prepare that list and that number and be ready to answer that question.
I mean, because we want to be able to give as much factual information so that people
Yep.
can really gain a handle on what that means.
I mean, I believe it exists elsewhere in other documents that we've had access to, but people
That's
haven't.
just the
so-
differences of what it
Right.
makes up. That's just me and the numbers, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that.
That's
any-
really what it would become. I think I hear what you're
You know what I
saying.
mean? That just doesn't have to be the first grade teacher because that's what's new added. We can find that money within the budget.
It would be within our discretion. I mean, that's technically where we might have to look first, but we could change those.
And to be clear, this school board can say, if it's the default budget, we're going to do X, Y, Z. But arguably, after March 11th, it will be a different board. And that board might have different ideas. The economy might change. We might have more revenues. A lot of things could be different. Computers could be, free.
Oh, I like the world you live in.
Falling from heaven.
Right. And there might
Electrons
be,
at work.
there's,
Well,
I'm being a little bit facetious, but the landscape could change, and we can't bind that board that convenes after the 11th.
Right.
but I think the best way to frame it, though, might be for us as an administrative team
Yes.
to say,
What it might
this
be.
this is what we would present as a recommended list.
Yeah.
And then the board will obviously digest it and discuss it and
The new
react
board,
to it.
whatever that may be.
new board,
Yeah.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just hope that we could have that to answer any concerns. And preface it by saying this is a list of potential
Yeah.
cuts that may happen
Right.
with the understanding of what you've
Yeah, well, I
explained.
like what the question said.
But it certainly will, I mean, to say it now, it will affect program. There's no getting around it. We're a very lean budget, and in terms of the programs that we provide, and
Right.
$208,000 is a lot of money, and typically you only get there by salary and benefits.
And-
There's not a lot of, that many pencils in the budget, so it's salary and benefits.
And if I may, given the extraordinary special ed increases,
Right.
the cuts would affect the regular ed kid education probably to a much larger extent.
That's
So it's really, it's going to be on the backs of those students.
That's fair. So I believe we were in the midst of a motion, right?
There's no vote.
We
That
have
was
to-
our discussion.
That was your question. I just want to make sure I know
Oh,
where I
no,
am.
I wasn't
No.
being fresh,
Um,
sorry.
So, if there isn't any,
I don't think we had a motion, did we?
Well, we,
I moved acceptance of the default budget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That was
that's-
default
that's where
budget.
this
That's
came
where it is,
from.
yes, right.
so if we have no further discussion, I would say all those in favor of the motion.
Aye.
aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0.
Right on.
I'm getting it.
So before you leave, we'll get your signatures on that.
Okay, yep, just
It's a
remind
form
us.
you have to sign.
Oh, boy.
All right, so now, and let's just move back up to Article 1.
Well, we're going to hold a budget hearing on that.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, so we don't do that
I'm not a
yet.
budget hearing, a bond hearing.
Well, you
You're
can
right.
do it.
We can, but.
We can talk about it, no one says.
I mean,
that
you
we-
could vote on it even tonight.
And that way, if
It's up
it
to you.
passes, then we can just.
If you don't, then we'll schedule a meeting, I would think, right after it, the same evening, make it easy for us.
I suppose the reason for not taking it up tonight would be to wait for the public to decide, right? I mean, is that,
Right.
but we could take it up, vote, and then if there's some great change to it, then we would obviously have
I
to.
kind of figured if we just continue moving down through and finish this, then we can go back, we have conversation about that, and if we arrive at a point where we want to, we can there's nothing that says we can't reconsider that vote.
Right, right.
Right.
You know,
So you want to go on to number 3? Go.
yeah, you want to just,
just
All
keep
right,
going.
I'm, whatever anyone thinks is great. So Article 3 is where we're moving to now.
I'd like to make a
Oh.
motion to, what am I doing? Exhausted. To accept Article 3 as presented.
I second that.
Very good. And discussion?
Or accept or recommend? What's my verb?
Accept or recommend is preferred.
recommend.
I think recommend, because down below, that's your language, yeah.
Is that what we said in the first, Article 2?
Yep.
Sort of.
Let's just, for consistency's sake.
Make it recommend.
Okay. So you,
So I move to recommend Article 3 as presented.
okay,
I still second that.
okay. So Nathan, were you going to say
No,
something?
no.
You can.
It's a question he's answered 4 or 5 times. I just don't
Okay.
remember the answer. I'll go back in my notes and
All right.
find it.
So, any other further discussion? No? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Okay, Article 4. This is the one about the fund balance potential that we could have. Motion?
I know there's a lot of concern about this article, and I know we've talked earlier,
Can we have a motion and then we
Oh,
can?
sorry.
That's okay. You can make that motion if you'd like.
like a motion to discuss Article 4?
To recommend.
To recommend.
Make a motion to recommend Article 4
As presented.
as presented. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, now let's have our discussion.
Okay, thank you.
No, just,
There's a lot of concern about this, and I know we've talked in the previous meetings we've had about limiting the number of articles, and I'm wondering if we should just put this off to ease concerns and to become a bit more transparent and understanding of the current economic situation and any frustration or confusion that may be occurring surrounding this article and the facility issue we're facing. So I guess in good faith, maybe discussing possibly putting this off until next year.
Then let me be the devil.
mm-hmm.
If we have the kind of year that we've had this year, and we need an emergency fund because we're depleting a lot of our funds this year.
Correct.
So this would fill up those funds?
Potentially if there was a surplus, right? We're limited by the amount we have the surplus.
Okay, so if we don't have these funds,
there's nothing to put in the pot.
and where will that money come from? Because you have to pay your teachers, there are certain things you have to do.
Sure.
So where would that money come from?
Where would which money come? If we have,
Are you talking special ed specifically?
Yeah, well, if we didn't have,
So if we run out of the Special Education Trust Fund money, and we
okay.
don't have the surplus
Ability.
ability, is that what you mean? What do we do?
Right.
Well, we'd have to,
It'd be
If
what
our
we would do
if
now.
we go over our operating budget,
Well, yeah, that's a whole.
don't
that's
do
a whole
that.
different
No,
thing.
no, no.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're
you
looking
never
at.
do that. You can't do that.
Can't do that.
We would
Christine
have to.
she gets measured
Very
for an orange
unpleasant.
jumpsuit, is what happens.
Christine's not going to allow that, first off.
All right.
Okay, so that's just not even a consideration.
So that's what I'm trying, this is just to have that extra money, so that if we have a year like we had this year, we have extra money. But it,
But it's not a guarantee that we'll have a surplus to fill that money with.
No.
If that is the case, and what happens, like you say, we exhaust all our special ed money, say, we would have to look within our operating budget to find those expenses, to pay for those things, just like we would have to do now. Is that correct?
Like we're doing now.
Yeah.
Anticipated revenues, you have the trust funds or your general fund. You cannot exceed that bottom line.
And I would like to think that under your careful guidance, we could make it through without that little safety net for one
Well,
fiscal
we-
year.
this won't be funded unless our current year has a balance.
No, I understand that.
So
I didn't.
there's,
There's
the-
no tax impact.
4, 5, and 6, the amount of minutes we spend discussing these divided by the amount of money that we're talking is,
Get your cup of coffee.
yeah, if that.
Don't say
But you're also, just so you understand, this would go into effect until it's rescinded.
Yeah.
Okay, so just
Right.
because it passes, it doesn't mean you even have to put in any money of our fund balance if we had
Okay.
one. Okay, you could just let the language pass, and we would have that opportunity next year and the year after. So it's available tool for you, and it's not just emergency purposes, it's also to help stabilize the tax rate.
Right.
Okay, which is a tool that is very useful, which you can see the town does. They help stabilize the tax rate when we drive the tax rate.
Well, I guess my comments would be to address some of the comments at the budget meeting last night, to that point, that, for years and in multiple meetings throughout this budget cycle, we have talked about this and made the point that if we had this available to us, we, of course, we can't bind a coming board, would have that intention and want that ability to help buy down the tax rate. And I guess I just don't see why we shouldn't have that ability, but the town council can, and it's justified. And I know that's a moral and a personal choice that people have to make, but that's how it appears to me.
But just remember, it's going to take years to really build up this fund. It's not just going to
Oh,
happen
sure.
overnight. So, but I want the taxpayer to know that, it's
It's not like we're just going to have a windfall of
dis-
$300,000 immediately. I mean,
I would think that we need to spend more time, perhaps, and then we can move on. But educating people throughout the next year of what this would be and what it would mean. I just think,
But they voted for it on the town side, so they know what it is.
No, but it exists on the town side by definition or by design.
Already been
They never
that
had
way.
to do this
They never-
because that's just, it's,
The way
difference
it's
between
their
a
tax, it's their tax
municipality.
rate, the way the town works. It's, they set the tax rate, so. This was established by former school board members who went ahead and became state reps and then drove this conversation because of what Kelly just said, because they felt like they, at the school board level, would like to have the opportunity to help manipulate in a positive way the tax impact, depending on what happens year over year, and/or have that as an emergency go-to if there were things that, that happened in the course of the year that really drove challenge to the district's finances. I just wanted to throw out, go ahead, if you had something else.
No.
You? I mentioned it a week ago, or maybe it was 3 weeks ago. I'd love it if we could just dispense with everything after Article 3 and focus ourselves on, we're asking for a school and a big budget, and oh, by the way, we got to deal with life safety too, because I'd love to be able to focus all of our educational efforts on the meat and potatoes of what the question is really before us. But I have heard from our conversations in the past that there are continued priorities and other challenges and things that we should meet, and, with conversation at the elementary school with this, and special ed having been depleted largely by our efforts this year, we talked a week ago, I guess, about, keeping these, and we've even made changes, and one of them's been removed, and so I can be supportive of that, but I wanted to echo your concern that I heard that, and I hear it, and I think it, unfortunately, it will take some education, and hopefully we don't let that get in the way of the educational effort that we really have to promote onto the other articles in the next month or two when we're trying to sell this and help deliver this at the ballot. So, it's there, and I can support it. And I think that one of the things I didn't hear last night is we can have, as a school board, whoever we are after March 11th, we can, as we march to a June 30th, have all kinds of fiscal prudence and discretion, and we can choose to not use this if it's passed. And we can choose not to use it the next year, the next year, the next year. But we can also exert our privilege, if it's voted in, to begin to use it whenever we think that it fits for the community and for the school district. So
I did want to.
for that reason, I can support it, I guess.
Clarify something with you first, because I believe that the essence behind this is that if, in an emergency purpose, we would need the multiple permissions. But to buy down the tax rate, or I hate to use that if that's wrong in terminology, but it would just be the board that could make that decision? Okay, I just wanted to make that.
Because as we understand it, right, every year we're gonna face this question.
Yep, you'll have a discussion.
This year, do you want it to be 1%? Do you want it to be 2%? Do you want it to be 0.5%? Do you want it to be 0?
That's what the town council does.
And that's what we'll have to
So it's the
decide that
same-
as we
it's the same
contemplate towards the
discussion.
end, so.
Yeah.
It's an every year discussion, because then if you ever get into the point where you exceed the 2.5%, then that automatically goes back, and then, so it's a discussion every year, open, public discussion that you will have to discuss if this is the right time to enforce it or to pass it.
Okay, so I'm just going to clarify. The motion that we have is to accept it as presented. So should we go forward with that motion? And then if it doesn't pass, I mean, what?
I hear what Nathan is saying. I mean, the happy medium would be you could consider Article 4 and remove 5 and 6. Because if you have to and it passes, you put your best foot forward, those two will essentially, you're protected, because that would fall under, both of those purposes would fall under the emergency. So you have that option, so you can eliminate 2 with the 1 as well.
Article 6 is just specific, where I think that our community would vote to support our special ed. That frightens me to remove that one.
I think all three of them, although it adds other conversations to beyond the things that are extraordinarily important, there's an education piece and an ongoing piece of, as I think I said last time, keep the discussions alive about there's needs in the other school building. And part of the reason why our budget is jumping so much is the special ed piece. And Article 4 gives us some ability, I think, in addition to budget very tightly, because we can, if we have emergencies, we've got a safety net. So I'm gonna advocate for keeping all three.
I think, too, when we come to this discussion at this point in the year, I always feel like this is just us voting on what to put on the warrant. The voters are going to decide one way or the other. So why not give them the opportunity? And we will hear one way or the other. If they don't, then they'll vote it down. And that's not up to us to make that decision. It's just give them the option and let's test the water and see what they think.
And it's not my intention, I hope it didn't come across that way, to limit their ability to exercise their voting rights, but
No,
really, what is the priority this year, and how can we?
it's the message we're sending, I think, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot to ask this year. It's difficult for this community this year, and I just think maybe just holding off on at least one of these articles to just kind of ease everybody's brain, because this is a lot. We're asking a lot. I'll do what, I will do what is in the best interest of this town and the voters and the school. And I'm fine if we want to put it on there. It's not going to hurt either way. But I just want it to be clear to everybody, we're in a pickle. The town's in a pickle.
I look at this article like a Jerry Maguire statement. Help me, help you. That's what I really.
Can we add
look
that
at.
language?
I know.
Like, if you give us the ability to do this, this is what we want to do. We want to be able to have that ability, because we do know that our school budget is so high. It's the biggest budget in the town. I mean, it's much bigger than the town's budget, and we need that opportunity.
So how do we from now, besides anyone who's able to listen or tomorrow or read the notes, how do we educate people about Article 4? Like, what steps can we
We've
take?
been doing it.
I know, but,
Deliberative session?
okay.
I mean, and, I mean, I don't know.
I was going to say, I think if it's your bent, I mean, if that's how you feel, part of the education could be to just say, like, maybe I should say it a little more strongly. If they vote yes on that, and I'm lucky enough to still be on this board in June, which you will be, because you're going to be here anyway, I certainly can't imagine today, with the financial challenges that we've already talked about having in this budget, that I would vote in support of holding on to anything with that article.
Oh, right.
Right. If there is anything to
If
hold.
there's anything to hold on to. We already, if there is anything to hold on to, and we got positive votes on 5 and 6, would be holding on to some portion. That vote might be, that decision on my part might be different another year, but as you continue to face and hear people that offer up concerns that, wow, this is a lot to ask in the same year, well, comfort yourself by saying, well, I don't think that I would support using it this year, but I would like to see it
I'd like to have the
voted in and
opportunity.
supported, so that in the future we can have this opportunity.
And I just want you to feel like when we have our, we're not trying to influence, I mean, you need to vote the way you feel, so don't feel like you have to change what
Oh,
you're
no.
feeling.
You should know that.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
She made us all wear red flowers, like, what do you?
I'm watching Christine's neck become inflamed.
I know. Every once in a while, I want to go, what is on that?
Okay,
I always say I don't know how to pin a corsage. That doesn't matter.
all right.
All right.
I think we've had a lot of discussion, so I'm going to
Good,
say,
though. Good
all
discussion.
those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, 5-0.
And I just, thank you for just
That's good discussion.
nice
Sure.
discussions, facilitating it and allowing those, silly questions or like
silly.
clarifications.
Because if you're thinking it, other people are thinking it,
Well,
and we're all thinking it.
yeah, I mean, it's,
All right, Article 5. And we just kind of talked about this a little bit, but
oh, that's a mouthful. I think Cliff should make the motion.
you like how he makes the motions?
This may be the last time you say this.
Oh, that's a good point.
Maybe.
Well, then, I would like to make a motion to recommend Article 5 as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, and the discussion?
I wanted you to say the name of it.
He doesn't have to read the whole thing.
I know.
All right.
So for clarity, though, for those at home who don't have the paperwork in front of them, and Gail's benefit, this is the article that is should there be a fund balance that up to $50,000 would be added to the repair and maintenance of school facilities expendable trust fund.
Thank you, Cliff.
Perfect. All right, any discussion on that? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. 5-0, pass.
I will move that we recommend Article 6, which would, as Cliff so fluently and eloquently just described, the previous article would fund the, in this case, Special Education Capital Reserve Fund.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed, so 5-0. Do we have to vote on Article 7?
No.
Okay.
We never do.
All right. So in Article 1, how do we feel? Do we want to talk about that now? Do we want to wait for the public? It don't matter to
I'm
me.
looking at you as the veterans at this point of what to do and what you would recommend.
Can I just add, there's been a lot of support for the new school, so I would like to try to vote tonight, but I'm not the veteran, so I don't.
Everyone has an equal voice here.
Right, I want to know what the norm would be, if there is a norm.
I'm gonna just do it.
You're living on the edge.
Yeah, I'm gonna move that we recommend Article 1 as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I guess if there's conversation that occurs at the public hearing Tuesday night, January 21st, in the high school gymnasium,
At 7 o'clock?
7 p.m., that makes us feel like we might need to reconsider it, that I would like to have a meeting posted in the event we need to hold one for immediately following that session, and then take that up at that time.
I think that's a wonderful idea. So Jim can see about making sure that it's posted.
Actually, we did a posting today.
Oh, you're one step ahead of us.
I'll
All
double
right.
check, but I know she wrote it up.
Basically,
I
we just
saw it.
voted it, but we're still, if it's open for discussion, if we wanted to.
Just realizing that
We reserve the option.
we've got no motion to limit reconsideration effectively, and we can at a later meeting, which might be Tuesday night.
So come prepared to that meeting that we might want to stay.
Right. Bring my pajamas.
But is there any, do we want to get into the meat of this and discuss, does anyone have any comments about the? how
So
it's-
I mean, I guess I'll just offer up, we had lots of comments made at the last time we talked about this. I just want to say I liked the idea of a nice round number, $45 million. We have the estimate from the architects and from an independent estimator. And so I liked it when we were saying it was going to be 45 million. The reality is, if you needed $10,000, you were going to find something. You're going to find it in the subsequent operating budget. You're going to find it 2 years later. You're going to do what you had to do. But it's a number that makes it cleaner and easier to have the conversation, because it is what it is. It's 45 million. It's not 45,125,363.
It's an estimate of 45.
And this is just an estimate. If you say 45 million, and I'm not at this point proposing we change it. We talked about tax rate impact. We've been to the public hearing. They've talked about it some there. The reality is that if you said 45 million, then it limits you to 45 million. I mean, it effectively limits you to 45 million.
Or
It effectively doesn't, because you could go spend a couple of bucks out of whatever kitty you might have if you needed to, but I liked that because it was kind of a placeholder in mind.
I mean, we did, I think Christine did, investigate language which would then be added to it that would then clarify that really what we're aiming at is 45, 125, 263.
Right.
So it'd be more language that would have been added. And
That's,
so we just, and I think we had a board meeting discussion where we said we,
There wasn't, I don't know that we took a
We did
vote,
this.
and I walked away with my own emotion. Like, I walked away with my thought, and
Yeah.
it's okay that it didn't get reflected here, because I know that there were a lot of people that felt it was cleaner to be transparent, and if we've got an estimate that is that number, then use that number, and that's fine. I would love to be able to spout for 30 seconds, but just lost scale, but somebody will actually watch this later, and so I want to say out loud, I'm a parent myself of two fifth-grade students who are going to enter that school, whatever that school is, next year. And if there's anything that I want, I would very much like to see my children graduate from a healthier facility, a healthier school facility that really is more supportive as it can be, of 21st century learning. And I know that we have students graduating from that facility now. But as I contemplate, as I'm sure many have before me, my students preparing to go to that school and potentially graduating, I'd like to think that my kids would graduate from a healthier facility. And over the last couple of months, I've shared a lot of concerns about the price tag for this project, and I've shared it with the superintendent and with members of the board and others in the community. My concern has not been for the scope of the project, because I like the project that we're working on, and I don't think for a minute really that it's out of whack. My concern has been that the price just seems to be awfully high for what we intend to build. And I know that lots of people have expressed that, but I'm not sure when I've heard the public commentary, it's been so much about the price tag for what they're getting as it is the price tag, period. So those concerns really boiled over for me when Oyster River chose Barrington over us, because it became very much that next, Plan B. It became what was next. And so I shared with the superintendent and the chair that I needed a better understanding of why the cost estimates were what they are and how they got to be that. Many in the community have already made the comparison with Exeter High School, and I have made that as well. And I make that comparison too because I was there working at SAU 16 when we built Exeter High School. As a result of me expressing those concerns, I want everybody to know, on the board and anybody listening, that the superintendent and the architect have provided data and reviewed it with me. And much of that is now included in the FAQ, the frequently asked questions document that the superintendent has put together. And it really supports their estimate. I had my own concerns, and I expressed those concerns, and I did so, I will be careful with the choice of words, vehemently, maybe I should say. Passionately. As a parent and as a taxpayer in the community, the data suggests that while I pick something like the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, which a lot of people in the community will know something about, and I have used in the schools for a decade or more to help measure inflationary impacts and pressures, while CPI might show that over the last 10 or 11 years, 12 years since we've started the construction at Exeter High School, that the CPI has driven 30% up, they showed me data from RS Means and Turner Building and AGC, Association of General Contractors. They showed me real data that's difficult for me to refute or argue with because it's the industry, that the building industry has dramatically expanded in its costs beyond what milk may have or my other household products. CPI is a consumer price index. It's not a building products or a construction industry index. I didn't like the answer. I think at the end of the meeting that we had, somebody said, "Do you feel better?" And I said, "No, I'm sick to my stomach." That's not the answer I wanted. I wanted a better answer. I wanted a lower number. I wanted different data. And so I have those two kids. And I'm hopeful for a new school, for Newmarket. I'm hopeful that it didn't happen in the educational experience of your children, but I'm hoping it will in the educational experience of mine. I'm also very hopeful that the market will prove to be much friendlier when we look at competitive bidding, and it will potentially drive actual costs down for our project, and it won't be what it is. And I want to say publicly and to everybody, I will be as adamant down the line as I have been vehement and passionate now that we make all efforts to keep costs as low as possible if we get the approval of this project. And so I definitely will be a voice supporting this tonight if we want to vote, when we meet with the bond, when we meet at the deliberative session and in the community, because the result is what I hope for our kids, mine, yours, ours. I don't like the price tag, but they've answered me on that challenge. They have given me the data, and now they've given it to the community, and it's out there. It's a part of the conversation. And so if anybody has been a part of that dialogue with me, my answer now is, the answer was given. It was not an answer that I could refute or refuse. I hope that I can successfully remain on the board so that I can talk more with Gail about Article number 4 we just talked about, and be part of the process to ensure savings where I can find it, where we can find it, and where we can make it happen. So I'm sorry that I had to look at notes because I've been thinking about that commentary now for a couple of months. So
Thank you for sharing that. I believe it is great information to share publicly. And I appreciate you for raising those concerns. And because that's all we really want to do is answer the questions and give the facts. And none of us, I think, love this number.
Right.
Because we all live here and we all pay taxes.
I don't know that any of you climbed on top of the superintendent's desk like I did,
And we-
so I just,
Wow.
Getting a visual.
Okay.
Got a little out of hand. Not bad.
You want to demonstrate tonight?
No, I won't demonstrate again. I don't know that this can handle what his
We'll just leave it at passionate,
That's
yes,
right.
yeah.
All right, speaking of movies, Coyote Ugly comes to mind.
There we go. Yeah, it would, yeah.
All right, so any other different comments to be made on Article 1?
I just want to say thank you for that. I don't want to say anything more because I don't want to dilute
Yeah.
that message.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
But we all agree with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm seeing no one jumping. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Or none opposed. So it passes 5-0. Okay. Whew. We're still on program. All right, so the next thing is staff evaluation committee assignment.
Yeah, you recall we discussed it last time. We had one, and then the others were gonna, I don't know, look at it or discuss it more, or,
Oh, so we just have to make that official?
yeah, I just
that's
wanna know
right,
what
that's
two
right.
people, and then I can start setting up meetings. That's
So
all.
was it Elizabeth that
Elizabeth.
said yes, and then, did you guys?
Play rock, paper, scissors.
$100. He made $100. For third place, he made $100.
There's some chocolates right here left over by the loving budget committee.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't
So-
mean to make it so that it's, suggest that it's a random thing, so, I mean, you should make the
No,
decision
no,
based
yeah.
on.
No, of course
Right.
not.
Right.
Well, if you can do that, you should do that. I would love
I
it. But if
guess
there's something you
my-
want to give up, just tell me, I'll do it.
Well, my concern was
Maybe.
what the schedule was when they are meeting, what days, what times.
Right. Do you know any?
Right now, I'm looking at maybe the fourth Tuesday or fourth Thursday of every month, something of that sort.
At 3:15.
Yeah, it's about 3:15.
It would be after
Right.
your school hours, but.
Yeah, I don't, I'd love to be a part of it, but I
Yeah,
work
they can
30
make that,
minutes
yeah.
away and
Yeah.
just.
Are you on?
Am I correct in that you currently sit there in that capacity, not for this board, but?
No, this is, what we're talking about now, this is staff evaluation, right?
The staff evaluation,
Oh,
yeah.
I
The
see
teacher
it, I
effectiveness
see.
model,
Teacher
and you've done
effectiveness
some
model. I'm
stuff
thinking
over
about
next.
something
We've been through it in Hampton, and I
Right,
Oh, yes, you have.
right.
certainly did lead that effort. I was learning every step. I guess
So is
what-
it Nathan?
yeah.
Are you
I can-
on? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Thank you, Nathan.
I'll be in touch.
Could you update our committee assignment list? I mean, it's not a
Yes,
priority,
yeah,
but,
yeah.
because I imagine that's
He was
going to be
looking
one
for
of those
anybody
assignments
else.
that
Yeah, at least will last
will
into
live
next
there,
year.
but
Yes.
then
Yeah.
we won't fill it every year.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Because it's
Okay.
kind of yeah.
All right. Thank you both.
That message should get out, that he was looking for anybody else. So, if he could get anybody.
All right, athletic participation, winter season.
Yeah, just to point out that I've received the updated numbers for participation in athletics. It's always just an FYI. You can see what we're doing.
It's great to see.
Yeah, good levels.
Yep.
Basketball looks good. I mean, the girls' side last year had 14, and this year have 20, and happy to see that.
Good. So correspondence, none?
None?
Business department update, default budget and MS 27.
Well, we already did the default budget, so that was on there just to make sure we can, I have them with me tonight, so you do have to sign those. We did pass the default number. So that was that. And the MS 27, I have to apologize. I sent you, it's just a draft. It was not complete, the MS 27. But what failed to get into the board packet was the whole purpose, which is the electronic version. So I wanted to show you the difference of the new DRA forms, because they're now going to be done all electronically. We can do them this year, but it's not mandatory, but next year they will be. So I wanted to show you that the state took a 7-page form and made it a 17-page form.
Yay.
So I just wanted to show you the two formats, so you
for
could
your
see them,
dime.
because I'm going to post both so that this year, if people have, so they can compare, so they'll be familiar with it, and then next year you'll have the new form that will be posted. So I apologize, but I will email that to you so you can see it. And again, they were just for purposes of display.
We don't have to sign any of
No,
that.
that's the budget committee.
Yeah, okay. And
Yeah.
they did that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my apologies on that.
Update on heating problems at the elementary school.
So the update that I received today, at the latest from Brian, was that we're still seeking second opinions on the controls for the heating system. We did have the circulator pump was installed yesterday, so that has been received and installed, so that is ready to go. Brian is still having to adjust the temperatures throughout the building. We did replace 9 of thermostats, so that is helping, but there's still some problems that they're trying to alleviate, and so it's a work in progress for that part. So that's all I have on that. So I will provide an update with what that will look like.
Okay.
Is that recirculator pump and those thermostat changes helped make it a little bit more comfortable in the building?
That is my understanding, but it's still cold. You'll still there's some rooms that they're just, even with the new thermostats, they're not able to monitor the heat as well as they thought. So there's still something that they're trying to work it out.
Yeah, in terms of the central system, there's a dryer that keeps the air dry, that then goes to sensors, and it's not working properly. So moisture gets in there, and so it's erratic performance of the thermostats, even if they are new, and so there's some problems with that. But it's good that the circulator pump was fixed, because that was the one thing that if that failed, then we're without heat. Everything else is just uncomfortable up and, down, but
I guess we can take advantage of the warmer.
The warm weather.
that we
Yeah,
had, and
yeah.
we're thankful that we aren't where we were.
Well, I was just gonna ask, does somebody monitor it over the weekend to make sure we don't get frozen pipes, and is that, Brian has to do that?
I'm not sure what he does over the weekend, but
I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, I don't think the concern is of the frozen pipes. It's just that you could walk into one room and one room will feel a whole lot warmer than the next room, if you're in the room, for us being comfortable. But I don't think there's any concern of having frozen pipes. It's not that cold that we would lose that
And that's
ability to, yeah.
It's not high school cold.
Yeah. Or have a town chambers cold. My feet are frozen right now.
Okay, so we're good to move on to policy?
Yes.
We have first reading?
yes, I have several here for first readings. The first one is policy on public notification of school board meetings. And there's a suggested change here is to move away from posting in newspapers and just putting it on the district website. In fact, we don't, it says when possible newspapers, and we really don't put them in newspapers anymore. That's the real truth of it.
But we're continuing to do the 2 locations in town.
We absolutely do the 2 locations. In fact, I think
Per statute.
she does 3, actually. I think she does the library and then here, and then I think she does both schools, so.
Maybe 4?
I'm not sure if she does library, now that I think of it. Maybe it's here in the 2 schools. So we do those 3, and then putting it on the website are what we currently do. So that's, again, it's first reading, but that's a recommended change in that policy. There are 2 policies related to field trips and excursions. I actually brought them up because earlier this year Nathan had made some comment about, he certainly wants to deal with these before he leaves, so. I had to get this on the agenda.
Yes. You gotta be careful what you wish for, Nathan.
Right.
But now I hear he's going to stay, so.
Now I'm going to stay. If they let me. I gotta say, I saw his notes, and it's funny because what I wanted to say was to those several teachers that I've had this conversation with, you lose. Like I asked the question, he asked the question, the principals asked the question. If they missed it, I'm sorry they didn't say something, because I would have thought that there would have been a real outcry, at least from, how many teachers have I come in contact with on those field trips, but
Doesn't seem,
if they don't seem to have an issue
from
with
our
it, then.
perspective, it's a whole different view. It
Yep.
seems manageable, and we think it's an important part to
Yep.
come home with some memorabilia or
Some
whatever
token
of the trip. And
Great,
so-
okay.
so it is.
Thank you for looking at it.
Yep. So there's no change to either of those 2. The graduation requirements one, you see all of the changes there, and clearly they reflect the program of studies that came out tonight. And you saw in my notes that we actually discussed this, I want to say, last March or thereabouts. And about almost a year ago. And at that time, we were proposing, actually, a graduation requirement of demonstrating competency on the statewide test.
Yes.
Remember that? We had a policy, and so we debated it for a while and then said, take it back and consider it some more, and we never brought it back, and then now, clearly the whole competency test is changing. We're doing Smarter Balanced, it's online and so forth, so it just doesn't, to me, I don't think the timing is right for that. I love the idea, but I don't think the timing's right, so we pulled that out. It does have all of the changes for diploma requirements that fit with the program of studies and the different classes. The thing that is new that we think is really important, and I know this is probably why Jean is sitting out there, is this certificate of completion, which, Jean, if you want to come up and just say a couple words, I think that'd be really, really helpful as to why it is. Jean has been promoting this policy change for quite some time, and so it's here now.
Thanks for hanging in there.
No.
I just let the other young people go.
Thank you.
I signed their,
Yes.
gave them my card and had to talk them into it. They were worried about me.
No, that's
Very
fine.
responsible. I feel it's important to have this because currently what happens, some of our students stay through 21. Most of them are on individual education plans. They typically are ones that are not able to satisfy the graduation requirements, especially the standards of the graduation requirements. These students particularly finish up, and up to this date, we give them a diploma anyway. And I think it doesn't really, it waters down the value of our diploma if we're giving it out when it's not earned. And I feel that at the same time, the fact that they have completed and finished, and this doesn't necessarily have to be a student with a disability. It could be any individual who's still in our system up to age 21 and has not earned a high school diploma. They get a certificate of completion, they're done. Because beyond 21, we don't educate students any longer. We're not responsible for them. And it makes sense to have this as an alternative if they have not earned a diploma.
And it's pretty typical to have this language. Other districts have it already.
Yes, yes, it's very, very typical. In fact, other districts have levels of diplomas. They'll have a state average diploma. They'll have just a 20 and a half state basic requirement, 20 and a half credits. Then they'll have their school district diploma. There's all different ways of doing it. We're just looking for the certificate of completion as an alternative to a diploma for a student who has not earned a diploma for whatever reason and has finished their eligibility in the public school system.
Now, do they get to march?
Yes. Oh, I'll tell you what happens now. What we do now, at least what I have had since I've been here. When a student, if it happens to be a student with a disability who's not on a track for a regular diploma, given that case, the student marches with their class and they get a diploma envelope like everybody else, and their diploma inside it has a congratulatory message. Congratulations, you finished high school. But it's not a regular diploma because they haven't finished. And if I grant them a diploma, they are finished. And we know they're not. They're staying till 21. So then right now we hold that diploma until they have aged out of the programming, and then we give it to them. But my point is that it's not actually a diploma that's been earned. And it's not, we should be giving diplomas when they're earned. They should mean something.
Do they march in the year that they would ordinarily graduate and then march again?
No,
When
they just march with their class. Because after their class is gone, their peers are gone, and their program substantially changes.
Very individualized.
It's very individualized. It's very involved in community activities, life skills, getting them ready for their adult services. These are typically students that go on to adult services through the area agencies who need support in their adult lives. And we work on transitioning them into those services, getting them as ready for the adult world as we can. So
Do
they're
they still come to school every day and then?
they may come into the school, but we don't do classes, and we change the whole works.
Different.
Some students may take a class. They may still have interest in taking a class. There may be they may still have reading tutorial. They may still, there may still be academics. It's very individualized. It's very individualized. But they're not taking 8 credits of class. They're doing other things. They may very well be on a student internship, on a job. They may be working with, for example, we have used services like Easter Seals to work with the students. Easter Seal will pay the adult services providers to do a program getting them ready. We may work with them on how to use a bus in town, how to get to different places, how to read a bus schedule. We'll work on a lot of the, yes. We might work on cooking, menus, shopping. We might get very involved in that kind of thing, depending individually what each child might need.
And we are, just to make sure everyone, we're mandated to do that until they're
Yes,
21.
yes, to the students I'm talking about, yes.
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 Well, I think this is a wonderful addition. I mean, is this a first read?
This first read.
All right,
yeah.
well, but,
Yeah, I just want to make sure. Thank you for
Yeah.
sticking around. But I want Jean to explain it better.
anyone else have any questions for Jean? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Okay.
And then where am I here? The last one that's a first reading is patriotic exercise, is just a policy that has not substantively changed at all, but last reviewed in 2008, so we're just bringing it forward again. And those are the first readings.
Okay.
And then second reading with two policies that I brought to you last time that should be deleted. They are outdated, technology-related policies that weren't handled when we did all the updates. These need approval.
Okay.
So I move to delete the word. I move to delete IHAB,
Can you say the name of it?
Information and Communications Technology.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Okay, the next one?
You want to do the next one?
I move that we delete policy IHAB-R, Information and Communication Digital Portfolio.
I second that.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, so that passes. Okay, I see no resignations.
None.
No nominations. And the manifest.
I move that we accept the manifest total of $217,794.89.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Pass.
Sorry for the scribble.
Calendar. Very busy this time of year. So where are we? We're the 16th.
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
Well, Monday's a holiday. Yay. Gotta appreciate Martin Luther King. And then Tuesday night, be there or be square. Bond hearing, high school gym, 7 o'clock. And then, oh, I'm glad you put that on there. January 22nd, the filing period begins for candidacy for school board. Nathan?
School board and
Oh,
budget.
other, well,
What time
that's
does Penny come in?
Want to make an announcement?
I shouldn't say that just specifically. There are other school-related,
Bless you.
but the town has a different, or do they
Nope.
have the same dates too?
Same
Okay, so
time.
they're
They're now
both-
in alignment.
They're not in alignment, great, okay. So for all boards that are open in the town, please, we need people to. This is I'm begging you, I get on my knees.
Well, I actually read a really good article today about why people volunteer. And so if you can, I mean, anybody, we can all come up with reasons, but it's all self-serving, basically. It all comes down to, if you want to make a difference in your community, in your school, in your budget, in your town council, that's why you run. That's my speech.
Well, it's true, and I think I saw someone, I mean, we all have busy lives, and
That's the other one.
it just is so important that if you want to have a voice, you choose a place like this to have one. And we need you, so that's our shameless request at 5 minutes at 10. All right, what else? So that period is from January 22nd to January 31st. It ends at 5 p.m.
How many names do we have in the hat so far?
No, that
One.
we'd have to ask Penny.
There
There's
wouldn't
no-
be any official at this point.
'Cause they haven't
There's no
started.
hat.
There's no hat,
I
it
know,
doesn't
but
start.
Any interesting conversations with anybody? Possibly?
Just loudmouth over here.
Just have to wait and see.
All right, anything else in January? The bingo already happened, so,
No bingo.
Wow, look at February.
February, do we have a February bingo?
Wow, look at all those
I think it's the
lovely.
22nd.
blocks, I know.
Oh, we can write that in, so
Yes.
February 22nd, bingo,
I don't know who the
bingo.
MC is.
Are they usually always at the same time, 11:30? I mean, I
I've
don't
only
want-
done, that was my first bingo. And I had a lovely time.
Okay, and we have our
Not
two
gonna-
board meetings, the deliberative session, 10 a.m. is the school portion. What did we say? Was it approximately 1 is that they're posting for the town portion?
1 o'clock is
1
what they
o'clock,
posted
okay.
for.
Very important that everybody who
High school gym.
wants to vote be there.
Because we'll be there. All right.
The only other thing I would add that I saw, Cliff, I think you told me today, that the 22nd of January is the Budget Committee meeting to form their position on the bond article.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's at 6 PM
Right.
in this room.
Right.
There's a town council meeting at 7, so They'll be operating under a
Which is sometimes good. Sharon.
structured time.
Okay.
And the public's allowed in?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
It's a budget
Just like the other
committee,
evening,
yep.
yes.
So when we were talking January, I'd just say it again for the record. On the 21st, our bond hearing, I'm presenting at a public hearing on the beach, so I'll be back as soon as I can wrap that up.
We'll
and
save a seat for you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Thank you very
Will you
much.
bring coffee too?
Oh,
bring
don't
it on,
go
let's
there
go.
again.
Do that again.
Come on.
All right. Anything in February, other than we've
Nope.
said bingo? Okay, good. So we did calendar.
Yo,
No,
school vacation.
well, yeah, I'm
Right.
sorry. Didn't mean to overlook that. I
Not as
actually,
important to some of us anymore.
I actually won't be here. I'm going to Florida. Not just by myself, but, yeah. All right, so no reason for non-public.
None?
All right, so,
Can I just say something? I know it's late, but I'm going to regret not saying this. I wrote something using technology. I've been trying to find a good time to say it. I know it's 10 o'clock, everyone's asleep, but I'm going to regret not doing it, and I think it's
Sure.
important. So I'm going to read from my notes. I'd like to take a moment to speak about the public meeting on Monday. I want to thank everyone who came and shared their thoughts, whether they were comfortable doing that through speaking at the microphone or showing their support in other ways. It's such an important process for our community to share our thoughts, even if we don't all agree on them or share the same ideas. This is a very serious time for all members of our community, and I want to thank everyone for getting more involved in educating ourselves and each other with the facts and the true needs of the community. I can't help but quote something I've recently read that is so poignant to what is occurring in this town. It's the fact that hope and optimism are the vital well springs of successful and positive change. Without these, a community becomes a barren wasteland, and its schools will turn into deserts of lost opportunity. Let's not lose this opportunity to do what's right, fair, and forward-thinking for our youngest community members and for the entire town. So, thank you for listening to me.
thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. All right, where's that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:59,
Second.
January 16th.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned.